like to call to order the meeting of the Vallecitos Water District for Wednesday, May 20th. And I would like, if possible, Director Elithar to lead us in pledge.
Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And roll call, please, Diana. Diane.
Director Elithar.
Here.
Director Hernandez.
Here.
Here.
Director Sanama.
Here.
Here. Okay. And first thing in business is we need a motion and a second to adopt the agenda for our meeting today.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. And we have introductions. There she is.
Thank you very much. And Director Evans, welcome back. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too, Bridget. This is Bridget Anderson, our Human Resources Technician.
Yes, I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
So, I'd like to introduce Misael Garcia. He became a district employee on January 14th as a temporary meter service worker 1. In addition to that, Misael worked for us for 1 year through a temp agency while the meter department was shorthanded. In April, he competed for and was finally selected for the full-time position, which was vacant due to a retirement. He is married to Rosa, and they have 3 children. In his free time, he enjoys playing baseball and golf and spending time with his family.
Well, welcome aboard. I want to say it's always nice to have someone who comes on as a temporary and then makes it with us for good. And as a meter reader, you have a lot of responsibility now to be sure you get every little drop counted correctly. And is this our meter men? Thank you for being here. Congratulations. Look forward to seeing you around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Welcome.
Okay, the presentations.
If
We have,
you could, before we start, I believe Director Hernandez would
oh, I
like to
am
address
so
the
sorry, I'm
employees.
looking at the wrong agenda. Yes, Jim Hernandez, Director Hernandez would like to add a few words right now.
It's interesting, over the years, we have talked about getting out amongst our community, and last year we approved going to the Boys and Girls Club as part of Vallecitos Water District, and I was lucky enough to sit down, and a couple, Trevor and I think it's Tracy McLinn, sat next to me and just chatting, and, oh, Vallecitos, oh, I have to commend your customer service department. I said, yeah, we've got to go. No, you've got to understand. I travel, and so I'm on the East Coast quite a bit, and my wife takes care of her kids, and young couple, and I'm in Georgia, and my wife calls at 7 in the morning, honey, we have no water. What happened? And he's just mystified. He has no clue. Broken pipes, what could it be? No, there's no water. So he immediately goes, I haven't paid my bill. So he dials into customer service. He goes, hey, my wife is, and the thing is locked, and I'm in Georgia. I don't know that. Take care, Mr. McLinn. We'll take care of you. We'll get you on. And within 3 or 4 hours, the water was back on. The wife was happy. He was elated. Everything worked out. So I just want to thank you, ladies, and having been there myself. I know. Well, no, I'm sorry. The cameras didn't catch it either, I hope. I truly do want you to know what an outstanding and excellent job you are doing for all of our ratepayers, and thank you personally. And for those that aren't here, would you pass it along, and when I'm late next time, I'll do it myself. So, so thank you all. I appreciate it, and so does the community.
Thank you,
Jim.
Director Hernandez. That was fabulous. And I was going to say, not at this moment, but I will since we're congratulating our staff and we have some here, is that at the recent Water Academy during the lunch with the constituents who went on the Water Academy tour, I heard repeatedly how amazed they were. I'm sure any of you who were there, how amazed they were and excited at how knowledgeable, friendly, and courteous every single one of staff had been to them. And I know they thought they were asking really tough questions and weren't sure they'd get the answers, and they were really pleased. So once again, the board has a lot to be proud of.
Thank you.
Director, also want to add some kudos to our staff before we move on?
Maybe
Okay.
after the budget.
After the budget. Oh, well, you'll probably deserve more then. Okay, we will be going on now to the presentations of the California Friendly Landscape Contest winners. And that will be Chris Robin. You're missing a good part. Yes, you do.
Diane's going to help get some nice graphics up. So, Director Hernandez was talking about being out in the community, and part of being out in the community is the landscapes that our community has. And approximately, 50 to maybe 80% of the water that gets used within our district is used out on the landscape, either agricultural customers, residential customers irrigating the landscapes. But it really doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that high, especially if you have a California-friendly landscape contest. The district participated in the regional California-friendly landscape contest. We had 6 different customers that submitted their landscapes to us, and we're going to celebrate. We actually had 3 first, second, and third place winners in our group, and we're going to see 2 of them tonight and get a chance to look at their landscaping. So first, I'd like to invite up Pamela Katz. Can you come on up? You want to bring your husband and your son with you as well? So Pamela and her husband were thinking about replacing out their landscaping, and I guess initially it was going to be kind of a family job with their son helping out, and I think maybe after a bit they decided to switch that out and bring in some professionals. So they replaced the landscaping. There's the picture of it right there on the on the board. Really fabulous job. A lot of the lights in there, and succulents, and some of the really nice ground covers that fill in a little rock swale to simulate a dried riverbed. Beautiful use of landscaping. And for Pamela, we have for you this autographed California Native Landscape booklet. It's done by Greg and Lucy. It's a really nice piece of work. And then the other nice thing is your gift certificate to Boyd Creek Gardens. That's for you. Maybe for son. And then also I've got a little goodie bag. You get that one. And this one's for you. You get to show it off and be part of the community and part of the neighborhood and show off that money drought you're saving every day, every way. Pamela, you want to speak up and say a few words? Oh, all good. Thank you so much. Second place winner is Irene Acosta. She's next up. That's a before picture. It gives you a good example. You can see how the soil's pretty dried out, pretty baked in, pretty tired looking landscape. Irene can't make it today. She is in Wyoming, I think, Grand Tetons National Park, working there over the summer. But she did a really terrific job, changed it over to a drip system and drought tolerant and natives. And she also had a landscape designer that came and helped her. And as over time, you'll see that these plants will kind of fill in the gaps and make it even more beautiful than it already is. So just a applause for Irene, even though she's not here. And lastly, and I will get the book to her and her gift certificate. And lastly, we've got Bruce and Patty Tate. Can you come on up? First place winners, drum roll, please.
All right.
The Tate's completely renovated, and I think we've got more than one picture, but you can see how this is filled in, and the good color that they have with the different flowers, and typically the low water use ones will also bloom at different times of the year and come out real beautiful. The garden itself gets it's one of those ones that gets a lot of butterflies, a lot of birds in it. And I understand that you provided some garden tours for some of your neighbors, and maybe some of them have engaged you and thought about doing this as well.
As well, yes, they come by. I have to set appointed times.
So
Come in for cocktail.
there you go. That's a good time. That's what I
What time
do.
is that?
Patty got to go out to the water conservation garden out at Cuyamaca College and was part of a big regional ceremony out there. So she already got her Buena Vista Gardens check, but we still have the native landscapes and your package. And I actually have, I think I left it out front. It's the full landscape contest winner. It's a little fancier, and I'll get that on our way out. But I'd like to, you want to say a few words?
No, he can't, because I
Oh,
spoke on
good.
Saturday.
Well,
He
thank-
got up every morning and worked in that yard before he went to work.
Nice.
I mean, we hired the high school kids to help us move the dirt from San Marcos High School. And they're 4-H landscape students. They brought their resume. It was wonderful. And they worked with him on Saturday when we moved dirt and mulch. Yeah.
So, yeah, it was my exercise for the day. Instead of going for a long walk, I dug in the front yard and put in gypsum and fertilizer and mulch and redid the drains and the electrical. I got a 300-pound rototiller because I used the lighter kind in the backyard, and that wasn't worth the time. And then put in the drip irrigation and the mulch on top, and Patty put in all the plants, and they took off like crazy. Yeah. And I just wanted to say something about your staff too. There's a couple of people in your engineering plan check department that are outstanding. You call them up, you get answers in a matter of hours instead of days. Instant email responses, it's really good.
That's nice to hear, and I didn't pay him to say that. Get a hand of applause for the Tates.
Well, I want to thank you, and I would like, if it's all right with you, Pamela and your family, and Patty and Bruce, if we could do a photo. I'd love to have a photo of you and any of the board members who'd like to come up. And we are really proud of you. And I do have one question. You said your plants grew fairly quickly. To get your yard to this point it's at, when did you put the plants in? And just out of curiosity, approximately were they the little 1 gallon?
They were 1 gallon, they were small plants.
Uh-huh.
And within a year, but we added we amended the soil a
Yeah.
great deal. We brought in new soil, new gypsum, growth pro, we put a lot of
Compost.
compost,
Mhm.
things like
Several
that.
yards of compost.
Before, the dirt is the key.
Well, it is the key, but I also know when you're trying to go water-wise and you're going native, a lot of those plants don't really like
No.
changes. So I'm very impressed with your selections and how quickly they've grown. I have an area we've
I was
gone on a
shocked.
year now, and it smells beautiful, but it's still tiny.
No, some of them died, and then I replanted some, but, yes, we were shocked. We were
Yeah.
totally shocked. We don't know why.
It's beautiful.
Great
And
job.
All year.
They bloom all year long.
They do, don't they? It's
Yeah.
pretty incredible. And then Pamela, I was curious where you did the rocks. Did you order them in, or did you do your rock beds? I know, you were out in the desert picking up.
Not those rocks.
We hired some.
Yeah.
The through the landscaping contractors, great. So if we could do some photos, and any of the other directors who'd love to be in the photo.
Sure.
We're very proud of them.
Very nice, very nice. Very.
But I've got some smaller stuff. I don't have any stuff. Well, see, I've got all small kind. I don't
Where
have
would
any
you
big
like them
ones.
to be? That would be the.
Because I don't have big enough spaces.
Oh, yeah, you're the tall guy.
I put,
There it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, come on,
Sure.
Can we get them all in? and
get them
then-
lined up, Hal.
Wait, I would suggest one group at a time, so we're not so crowded. I mean, would you set things separate so that next down? Or
I'm checking it out.
you can just hide it right on that side.
Next.
Thank you, yes.
Who's on that text?
Excellent
About
job.
meeting.
Excellent job.
Who? His wife.
Oh, okay, because it didn't come up, but see on yours. it
Oh,
come
you
up
don't
as a
have the
name.
number. Yeah, you just have the numbers. Kathleen Sewell can lunch.
Okay.
Hopefully we can talk her into,
Yeah.
because I was even talking to James about this. He says, God, it's gonna be a lot of people.
Yeah, no, that's-
She'll go for it.
yeah.
That was good. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
While everybody's taking their seats, it's interesting, I'm a Michigan boy, Midwestern, and when I've heard of this xeriscape landscape, and I think of this, this cactus in the middle of this big desert, and
Yeah.
that's, wow. But examples like yours and yours, really, that picture needs to circulate among our community to let them know that xeriscape landscaping can be magnificent, really beautiful. So thank you both again.
Well said.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, then now we will move on to oral communications, and we have 3 speakers. I believe I'll start with Carl Weiss.
Thank you. So, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Carl Weiss. I'm the general
Weiss.
manager out at La Costa Oaks Community Association in Carlsbad. I recently moved from one of your largest water users, Emerald Heights, and so that's somebody else's baby now, but the main reason I'm here is I wanted to thank the support of Betty and the operations team, in particular Ken Gertis, in replying to a problem area out near the Mar Reservoir, and ultimately got to the right person at the right time. Ken and I went out and looked. We've got graffiti cleaned up. It's a teen hangout, which is actually becoming older than teens. It's taken a little bit of pressure on Carlsbad Police Department, so I'm asking for continued support with Carlsbad Police about enforcement out there. Our homes, we've got 3,000 residents all around that reservoir. Some of the homes are very, very close and very concerned about fire activity out there. Obviously, the dry brush in that area is a big concern. So that's really the main thing, asking for continued support. I understand that in the operations department, there might be some changes and retirements going, and so that's why I kind of make this verbal nod to you both. And I understand that there's a possibility of looking at some additional increase in fencing, possibly some additional lighting, and a camera. All of those things will help deter, make that area less pleasurable for these kids to come hang out
Less
and cause a
attractive.
nuisance. So whatever we can do to help support that, we want to. We want to work with you in partnership to make this problem go away.
You bet.
Thank you. The only other thing I've got is we're working on about 500,000 square feet of turf replacement.
Wow.
The City of Carlsbad, when they initially allowed our development, requested grass strips between the curb and the sidewalk. So, a whole bunch of those little grass strips add up to almost 500,000 square feet, and obviously with a SoCal Water Smart rebate, that will virtually take care of our replacement cost. Now, it's a matter of getting the homeowners who bought with grass in front of their homes to be okay with the idea of changing to something different. So anyhow,
We'll be reaching out to you on all that as well. Yeah. Thank you, Carl.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes,
A question of staff.
a question for staff, and I just wanted to say one comment here. Carl was in my actual division, and that's where we met, and I was very impressed with how seriously he took the water wise and saving water for the homeowners at that time. Our conservation staff and I worked with him, mostly staff, to help resolve that problem. And when he changed, and I'm sorry, I don't know whose district he would be in as a direct representative. But
I'd probably direct Chanela.
Director Sinella. So you'll know, not that we won't all represent you, we will, and we're all gonna, as Dennis has said, work with you. But I do want to assure you that when we lose Ken Gertis, if we can't talk him into hanging in there a little bit longer, we'll replace him only with someone of equal or higher quality. So you'll get the pass. And now, with that threat, he probably will never retire. But,
Oh, I didn't see you here.
but thank you very much for bringing it forward and for being on top of the issue and working on the grass replacement. Is very challenging now. Director Martin.
I saw Ken's help wanted on Craigslist. He's ready to go to work already for himself. Now, I have a quick question. I didn't know we were having a problem out at McMar Reservoir. Is that, did I miss something? Did I
No,
not read
it's
something?
what it is. It's like anything. Mar Reservoir forever, because it's remote, kids would go out there and play in the overflow structure. So they go out there and skateboard and do everything else. So what happened, obviously, is as growth, and like Carl said, their subdivision completely surrounds it. And not only is it that, but now they have a nice road that lets them drive right up to it. So it's just, I don't want to call it an attractive nuisance. It's just they, we had some beer bottles, some graffiti and stuff like that. So he brought it to our attention. We went out there and cleaned it. Sort of like on the backside of where you used to live, the cub and the bear, top of the mountain on Escondido, same thing. Kids go up there and do what kids do.
So,
Yes, Director Sinella.
so Carl had mentioned a couple of security enhancements, if you will, with maybe some higher fencing, or I'm trying to think from my experience outside of the water district, would a point-to-point camera system similar to like our radio system work out there?
Well, we have a camera that we're putting in for the chemical injection building that's at the other top of the hill. But you got to remember what we put those in for. They're for forensic. They're not for real-time monitoring. As far as the fencing goes, it is actually their property. We just have an easement for the overflow. If they choose to fence it, it's fine with us. The only thing we have to worry about is it is an overflow on a reservoir, so you can't put fencing in front of an overflow on a reservoir. So if they do that, it would have to be a trash bar type thing or something like that.
Okay.
So we're willing to support if they want to do
And
something like that.
Carl, has Carlsbad PD increased their patrols? Has it been effective at all?
Yeah, actually, within the last 2 weeks, I've finally got sergeant and lieutenant assigned directly to that. They complement each other's beat routes in that area. So there will be enhanced presence finally. Apparently over 2 years, the board and previous management had been trying to get Carlsbad to respond to that area. And somehow I guess I pulled the right strings, and finally I'm getting the right response. So it's, again, now that we've kind of got a leg up on it, it's just awareness and being more proactive, and that's why I'm here to kind of put it on your radar screen is all.
Thank you. Thank you. And in your position, I suspect that you may hear from the residents before we hear from them. So if it continues, please let us know.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next speaker will be Malcolm Matheson.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to address the board. My forte is not public speaking, so if you don't mind, I'm reading this. I would like to discuss the proposed water allotment or cutbacks as they pertain to agricultural customers participating in the TSA-WR program. As a commercial farmer, my business is water conservation. I fully understand the need for water restrictions, and I was one of many local growers subject to mandatory 30% water cutbacks in 2010 and in 2011. I complied by stumping 4 acres of mature avocado producing trees that year, and has subsequently began rewatering them. In 2012, VWD approached me to participate in the TSA-WR program. By signing the agreement, I elected to comply with any mandatory water cutbacks that may exist in 2013 and beyond. That's what it states. The agreement states specifically each customer's allotment would be based on usage in base year 2006-2007. To date, I irrigate and operate my 10-acre avocado grove based on this TSAWR agreement. All farming-related decisions past, present, and future are based on the agreement and agreed upon water allotment. This year I received notification from VWD that those participating in the TSAWR program would be allotted 85% of their usage or a 15% cutback. However, what the public and the water district does not understand is by disregarding the 2013 agreement and changing the base year to 2013-2014, my particular water reduction equates to 40% water cutback and not 15%. 2 years ago, I removed 4 acres of production and did the good agricultural practices and replanted in a high-density planting in 2014. So basically, I did not water these 4 acres for that almost a full year, which is 2013 and 2014. This severe cutback 3 times greater than what is intended to be imposed, would cause major financial hardship to my operation. If 2012, 2013 was used, this would not be an issue. I'd used 25% more water. So my request today is to ask the board to instruct staff to return next month with a plan for the TSAWR program that would include suggestions for allocating any excess water the district may find it has within the district TSAWR allotment. In recertifying the ag customers, which I'm assuming is going to happen for the new TSAWR program, how many growers actually remain, and how much of that water can be reallocated to hardship cases? Thank you.
Thank you. You going to say something, Dennis?
No, we'll look into it.
Okay.
I appreciate it. I had discussions with Tom Scagliani. He's been really helpful in the past. Really have.
And you know, Malcolm, I'm aware of that, and I know you are in my district and right up the road from where I live, actually. And I actually have an email that I've composed, and we're talking just about this.
Okay.
And normally in our oral communications, we can't take any action on it, so I appreciate what you said. But I do want you to know we appreciate you bringing it forward and how complicated the issue is, because it's the first time ever we've had a governor who's taken a mandate and supersedes any of our ordinances. And that's the challenge. And I don't know if you know, but when the original ordinance came out, before the one we have in front of us, the mandate, the state actually was going to exempt all agriculture in a district unless you had 20% of your water use was agricultural. Well, our percentage is
8.8%.
8%. So the San Diego Water Authority, which I'm a board member on, we argued with Sacramento and did a lot of lobbying to get them to agree that agriculture, whether it's 100 acres and it's a minute part of a district, or it's 1 acre and it's part of a big part, is critical. And we got that portion removed so we can do the 15% with the way our water system is set up for ag. But it was really amazing to know that the governor had just did a very big blanket, and ag to him, you would have had nothing. So we are in a quandary, and it is a struggle, and we'll work on that. I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes, Director Martin.
I just have a question for Dennis. Dennis, when you said you'll look into it, does that mean you'll keep the board in the circle from now on?
Yeah, I was just gonna
We want
elaborate.
to follow up and find out exactly what's happening with this.
We actually just got our allocation Thursday. I mean, it doesn't go into effect until June 1st, so while I appreciate what the gentleman is saying, what we'll have to do is look at what our allocation is. We're working on now, as Director Evans said, we have a agricultural management, something yada, 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 that we have to put together with all the other agencies now and be done by December. So what I have to look at is how much water do we actually have for ag? Do we have any extra water to move it around? And then we will come back with any alternatives that we have to move water, but we don't know until July, August, September how much water we do or don't have. So like I said, we'll work with you, and I know you've spoken to Tom twice, so, I'll let the board know.
Okay, I'm just asking that the board
Absolutely.
remain part of this loop
Sure.
as this continues, and it doesn't become a Mar Reservoir issue.
Yeah, and there was no issue at Mar Reservoir, correct?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it, thank you very much, thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
And our next speaker is Mike Hunsaker.
Thank you, Mike Hunsaker, San Marcos. I'd like to thank the staff, particularly Diane and Dennis and his management for providing some information that I requested. They were very helpful and it was quite informative. I'd also like to thank Mr. Hernandez for his special presentation on smart meters. I hadn't realized until looked into it at the presentation you asked at the council meeting, board meeting here. Just how destructive it can be in the present environment to have smart meters rather than the digital meters that you're now installing, which I commend. Also like to thank Mr. Sinella for some of his inputs, telling us some of what is planned for the future. I'd like to also bring to the board's attention that there's a very interesting discussion at the San Diego Law Library on water law. I intend to attend, and I think it's something that you'll find useful. One of the useful things about water rights is that eminent domain was created specifically concerning water rights. In the 1905 earthquake up in San Francisco, the biggest destruction was fire. And as it turns out, one individual owned all the water rights for San Francisco, and he demanded payment for his water before it could be used to put out the fires. This rather upset a lot of citizens. The man who owned the water, Mr. Stanford, made a great deal of money. And so it has been established the right of eminent domain to work in the betterment of the public. There has been some attempts to sort of subvert this into a private game. And I sort of semi-segue this about question of reservoirs. There's some indications that you're interested in recycling and reclaiming some more water, but there is a question of whether you're going to put the reservoir. Considering the far-sightedness of this district, I think that that should be addressed immediately, and that it be factored into any CDC settlement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Okay. Moving on, we will now go to our consent calendar. I need a motion and a second to adopt unless there is an item that needs to be pulled.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, now, action items. Item 2.1 starts on page 39 in the board packet and will be a discussion on the bond refunding update by Tom.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and fellow board and board members. You have before you, what page is that on?
39.
39, starting on page 39, a memo regarding the refunding that we're undertaking now. I haven't had so much fun since the last one in 2005. In March, after approval to get started, General Counsel Scott and Robert Poor, our financial advisor, got started in getting a team together. And so we have a team together, and with us we have Jonathan Ash from Citigroup in the audience. They're our underwriter and investment banker for the deal we have, and then we also have bond counsel Sidley Austin and Straddling Yoko is a bond disclosure counsel as well. So we have everybody in place. We've been going forward. Just yesterday, we had a call on documents, to get documents ready for the next board meeting on June 3rd. So we'll have the resolution and the POS, the preliminary official statement, and other legal documents for your consideration to adopt. The one thing you have following this memo in your board packet is the preliminary official statement for your review and comment. So we would need to get any comments back before, there's a typo when it's actually the June 3rd board meeting, so in time to get it in there. So a week before the June 3rd board meeting, if you have any comments on that, would be greatly appreciated. We did have, last Thursday, the 30th of April, we had a training from our bond disclosure counsel, Doug Scott from Straddling. Very interesting, had a lot of law changes from the SEC on disclosure. So we do have to, both the board and staff have to take care, particularly in a public setting, to say anything that may be construed as something that an investor might rely on when they're looking at these bonds. So very good training that we had on that as well. So we also had a rating presentations to Fitch. Robert Poor in the audience and staff were on the call to Fitch Ratings and to S&P. That was last week, and we're expecting a rating back from them by May 26th. And also what we have, and then I put a little schedule in the memo too, what we're anticipating, the June 3rd board meeting, and if all goes well there, closing by July 9th for the actual bonds. The fiscal impact, it's hard to say what it is. It changes every day, and that's why Robert Poor is here. I'm going to ask Robert to come up and give you an update, up-to-the-minute update on the market. As market changes daily, so does the potential savings for the refund. Thank you, Robert.
Good. Thank you, Tom. Madam President, Madam Chairman. Would you like the handouts, or are you satisfied to go through the electronic presentation?
Yeah, you can hand them to Dan.
They have it on the screen in front of them, so
Okay.
you're good to go.
Great, thank you. Just again, to go over the background, these are your 2005/7 certificates of participation. They're outstanding in the amount of just under $54 million. They're currently carrying ratings from Standard & Poor's of AA and from Fitch Ratings at AA+. Their cost to you is about 4.7% at this point. And I would like to add at this point, staff did an outstanding job on the rating agency calls last week. It was an excellent presentation, really played very well with the rating agency analysts. So kudos to Dennis, Tom, and John. The current market has really been very volatile, as Tom explained, since the middle of March. As you can see on the next slide, rates have tended to trend up, gone up. The 30-year Treasury is up about 23 basis points. The 10-year Treasury is up about 0.25%. And as you can see, there's been a lot of volatility on the lower slide. Interest rates have been very volatile. There's a lot of geopolitical unrest in the world. There's a lot of economic disruptions in Europe. There's a lot of uncertainty with the U.S. economy. So all that plays into volatility in interest rates, and we can see that. Generally, though, interest rates have trended up over the last 2 months or so. And you can see on the top slide, that's the Municipal Market Index, or what we call MMD, a 30-year and 10-year. Those have also trended up over the last 2 months. Those yields and interest rates have gone up. Now, the good news is, despite the increase, interest rates were extremely low when we started this process back in March. So you still have very appealing interest rates. And you can see on this slide what the interest rates and what the results of the current market would be on the refunding. Total net present value savings as of yesterday would be about $3.3 million. And that's about 7% net present value savings to the district, so it's still a very attractive number. I think your debt management policy requires a minimum of 3%, so it's more than 2 times your current policy. And that would produce annual cash flow savings about $230,000. And, you know, the one statistic I like to point out, the true interest cost is still 3.31%, which from a historical perspective is extremely low for a 20-year maturity. That really is an update, and I'm happy to entertain any questions that anyone might have at this point.
Yes, Director Martin.
I have a question. Never done this with water before, but I did quite a few CFDs refinancing, and it always amazed me as time went on how much that savings shrank. And it seems to be doing the same thing now. The saving, even in the report that we have in front of us, it says it would likely be in excess of $4 million. And whenever that was prepared, I'm not sure, but this was prepared immediately after that, and now it's 3 point. At some point in time, when it gets close, it's just not worth it, huh?
That would be, if the market continues to trend up and interest rates continue to go up, you know, we would not recommend, you know, taking savings at 3% net present value savings. I mean, the call date is not until 2017. So by waiting, there is the opportunity potentially that the the savings would go up by merely waiting. That assumes interest rates remain relatively stable.
So I understand. I just, the world is always in unrest, and there's always governmental problems.
Correct.
That doesn't change.
Correct. I mean,
I heard 10 years ago.
And the other side of the coin is interest rates have been so low for so long, and there's so much pent-up concern about that, and you would expect them to start trending up at some point. You know, everyone expects the Fed to do something towards the end of the year, and you might see interest rates going up. So while waiting could benefit you, also waiting could be detrimental to the district.
Sure.
Typically,
So the best scenario is you get just over that 3% to make it happen, and everyone gets commission checks versus 2.9, and we don't do it. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Yes, Director Sinell.
So, are we forced to wait until a certain period, until June? Because we've had the original presentation on this, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago. Why are we not acting? Can we not do it before June, or?
The team's acting as quickly as possible. As Tom mentioned, the staff put together, the finance team got the documents together, got to the rating agency as quickly as possible, waiting for the rating to come back. The rating agencies do take a little bit of time, so we expect by May 26th to have the ratings, and then the board would approve the documents on June 3rd, and we'd hope to be in the market immediately after June 3rd.
I see.
Yeah, we've pushed about as fast as we can push it. Yeah, it takes a little work to get it.
Director Hernandez, did you have a question?
No? And I just wanted to reaffirm that what we're saying is if this were to change quickly or suddenly and it was below the 3%, we wouldn't even be considering it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that's our floor or ceiling or what floor.
That's your floor, yeah.
Yes. And I want to thank you guys for doing a great report, and I don't know how you hang in there in the volatility of this market and kind of second guess it, but it would be really wonderful if we could do that savings. And I also understand one of the things that our district has in our, the board has pushed the policy that we are not stretching out and taking on more debt. We are paying down, is that correct?
That's correct.
Paying down our debt, and this is true savings.
Correct.
Or not? Okay.
Correct, yeah.
I think that's real important to keep in mind, because it makes a huge difference. All right, thank you. Anything else?
No action required.
Thank you.
Great, thank you
Robert.
for your time.
Okay, thank you. And our next item is item 2.2. It starts on page 106
You
in
hit
your
that page
packet.
down a lot.
And it's also Tom's
Yeah.
honor to address it.
Yes, as part of, and I had mentioned earlier that we had the training on the new bond disclosure rules and things like that. We also, as part of this, and we periodically look at our policies and our debt management policy in particular, when we're issuing debt, we'll take a look at that, and we did. It's still good policy. We changed it about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. I can't remember when we last updated it. But now, because of the rule change, we took one paragraph that dealt with bond disclosure, and I think we added like 4 pages on, and that was provided by our bond disclosure council and reviewed by the team as well. So, and there's no fiscal impact. It's just adding disclosures, what procedures we need to do when we have an issuance, and who's responsible for reporting what and to who. So those were the changes that you see in this policy, and there's no fiscal impact, but staff would recommend that the board adopt the debt management policy.
It's, if you look on page 112, you see the one paragraph. And then you go down and you go page 114 through 118, that made up for that one paragraph.
So this is just a policy change,
Correct?
Yeah.
and we will be reviewing it, we'll be doing all the specific work every year and reviewing this each year.
If nothing changes, probably not, but when we have SEC changes, or we'll certainly review it every year, and if there's changes that we feel need to be made, we'll bring it to the board for consideration.
All right. So, questions, comments? A motion?
I'll move to approve as presented by staff.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second for this resolution, and we call roll call vote.
Yes, this will be resolution 1468. Director Oliver?
Yes.
Director Hernandez?
Yes.
Director Martin?
Yes.
Director Snell?
Yes.
Director Evans?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. And now, item 2.3, ordinance adopting emergency drought regulations. Begins on page 129 and goes through 134, and I believe that will be presented by Dennis.
Yeah, I'll go over a couple of quick slides. This is what we received last, if you read the staff memo, again, there's numerous dates. This all started back in April 1st with the governor. The number of meetings we've had in the last 6 weeks have been phenomenal. On May 14th, the Water Authority took their, what I would call the last action. Was it the 14th? Yeah. The last action between Metropolitan, between the state, between the governor, between everybody. They took their last action on May 14th. The day after, on the 15th, that's the 10-day waiting period that the new laws that were put into state on the 5th became official. So as of the 15th, everything the governor's done, all the rules, all the laws, they are now in effect and enforceable as of the 15th. So the day before, the Water Authority took action on several items, and I'll go over that verbally, but I just want to show you, you can see this is Lake Orville. It's obviously way down there. It's not good. Next, please. There's a lot of things that they went through at the board meeting last week. I'm just going to hit the first few slides just to, again, show how the state stands, kind of the dichotomy that we're stuck in down here in San Diego versus what we're having to do in this ordinance. So there's a lot of things that send a mixed message out. Next, please. This is the most telling picture of all of them. The blue is the historic snowpack, where we would be, and you can see we would be at our peak snowpack the 1st of April. And the 1st of April is when the governor took his action saying we are at crisis level. We are at probably 2.5% there. Now you can see there literally cannot even track the moisture content of whatever the snowpack is. It's non-existent. I mean, it is just gone. Next, please. Again, just to show the trend of what we had, and I didn't, most of you heard it yesterday morning at NOAA. I've got that presentation, so I'll pass that on to anybody if they want to see it. This shows 2006 through 2016, and it's pretty obvious we're on only 2 of the years we're above normal rainfall. Only 1 year did we even get over 60, mid-60s. But in all reality, according to the NOAA, when they did our presentation, this isn't a 10-year drought. We've been in this since '99. It's a cycle. You need to move forward. Next, please. That's the question mark right there. That's what the governor did. Everything he's doing right now is because of next year. He wants to save, the bottom line was he wanted to save 1.3 million acre feet statewide. He didn't care where it was, but if it's in the south, it can't obviously move back north. That's why they're not releasing any more water from Orville or Lake Shasta. It's sticking to the north. Next, please. This is kind of the Lake Orville. You can see where the historic line is at the very top. You can see last year where we kind of hit about the same time, just the water got there a little earlier, a little later. So we're at about the same point on Orville, but again, they're not releasing any water from Lake Orville. So the amount of water that's in there really doesn't matter. They're keeping it in case 2016, it becomes another 2015. The scary part is you see the far left, I can't quite read that date, I guess it'd be December 1st, they were at a record low ever reached in Lake Orville since it was built. So it's a trend that's pretty scary that people just need to be aware of. Next, please. This is the saving grace for Southern California. Back when they had the December rains, they moved as much water as they could down through the Delta, down into San Luis rather. I drove by there on the way back from Aqua, just drove up there and took a look at it, and that's kind of deceiving. It says how much water in it because it's way down, and they're pulling it pretty quickly to get water down here. Next, please. Again, Colorado River, it's the same thing. 12 of the 16 years have been below normal. You can see where we're at in 2015 versus 2014. And last year, that was where, Metropolitan got a bulk of their water, was the Colorado River Aqueduct. So you can see the normal supply. So they are dipping deeply into supplies this year. Again, it's just kind of scary. Next, please. And you've seen this many times. We're looking through July right now, and that'll be kind of the topic of the ordinance. Where the concern is and where we're headed is there is no break coming on the temperatures. Next. Here's what happened. April, the Water Authority got their allocation from Metropolitan. That was the item that Malcolm spoke to earlier. The level 3, 15% supply cutback. That directly impacts the SAR people. There's some confusion that he has on what date is in effect on his agreement and everything else, so we'll work with him on that. The allocation period is July 1 through June 30, 2016. That's the next trick. Their allocation starts July 1. The governor's allocations kick in June 1. So we got a 1-month discrepancy on what we have to do and comply. So that's another little thing that we throw into the mix. The Water Authority allocation from Met's 314. These are the penalties right here. So this is what we have to find a way to grapple with, is when we have an allocation, especially on TSAR, which is what we have right here. If we go over our allocation to our irrigation customers, this is the cost per acre foot penalty. This is not the cost of the water. This is the penalty. So keep that in mind. So that's why we've got to be very, very careful if we look at allocating water amongst ourselves or moving it around. I can't take domestic water and allocate to ag. We're not allowed to do it. They are separated. So we can't do that allocation. So that's where we've got to be very careful when we do anything on giving allocations above and beyond what we're allowed to give them, because the action that was taken by the Water Authority last Thursday, part of it, and I finally got the final ordinance, and I'll send you a copy of it. It does not allow the Water Authority as a whole to look at Tier 1 and Tier 2 water. So in other words, if one of the agencies, Santa Fe, doesn't meet their tier, but we do and we go under, it's not an averaging effect of the whole for the county. Every agency stands on their own. That's the only way that everybody believes they're going to get cooperation in conservation. When we went through the last drought, way back when we went to the allocation process, the Water Authority said, okay, if we don't go over in Tier 1, no penalties will be enforced as a region. Well, what we saw back then was some were like, we're good, we've done our share, and others did a lot. So the people that did a lot offset the people that didn't do anything. So it was pretty unanimous this time amongst the agencies. Everybody stands on their own. So that's the issue we have to be careful with as we move forward. Next, please. I think that's about as far. Here's where we go. There's the SAR allocation. This is how we get water from Met. We actually get a specific allocation. It's not that we can play within it. That's what we get. So we're part of that 40,751. I believe ours is 1,070.
1,170.
1,170 is our allocation of that 40,000. So you can see we're not a very big piece of the allocation, but we have to play within that allocation. The program allocation is based, again, it's on the 2014 base period, and it's within that total amount there. So that's what we've got to be very careful. We'll work with them however we can, but to go out of it is some substantial penalties and fines. So, that's all I just wanted to show on this. I'll go one more, Diane. I think I want to go through 11. Okay, this one, this is what we went through, and this is the other. Next one more, please. Okay, you see the red on the bottom. Local water supplies, 25,000 acre feet. You see the long-term Colorado River transfers, that's the IID transfer of water, also known as the Quantification Settlement Agreement, QSA. That's the water we get, and the nice part was we ramped up this year. And we ramp up for a couple of years in a row on the amount of water that we get from Imperial Valley on the ramp up. So we're actually getting more as things get worse, so it's good timing. In the middle, you see the Carlsbad desalination plant, 39,000 acre feet. That's the blue. That's assuming they come online, I want to say November, October, November. And then you see in the bed allocation at the top, the yellow. So if you look at the blue, the green, and the red, and the county, then the region had not done what they've done over the last 20 years, since the last real bad ones in 93, we would be limited to our 274,000 acre feet of water, which we'd be going into probably a 40 to a 50% curtailment right now. So that'll give you a magnitude of what's been done countywide, but it's amazing what you can build for $3 billion. I mean, it's, I was talking to Director, not Hernandez, yeah, when you first came, no, Director Martin, when he first came on the board about the value of all these things that we build. And he says, man, you guys go through $100 million like it's chump change. Well, it's expensive. You know, if you figure that little blue piece in the middle was $1 billion, and look at what it got us. So it's significant. The trick is we got our allocation last Thursday. The Water Authority took action, and they basically said, okay, San Diego County, you're at 99.XX% of your water supply. You're good. So what that means is we stay in level 2, which is what the ordinance is here. So we're not changing any action on your existing policy, which is your drought management policy. If we stay in level 2, the Water Authority didn't take any action to go beyond the initial level 2 because they're at 100% water supply. There's nothing to be done. There's a lot of moaning and groaning going around about all kinds of things, of allocations, offsets, all this good stuff, and they're kind of, I don't want to say empty conversations, but unless there's a declaration of a water supply shortage, it doesn't trigger all these other things. Now the state is in dire straits where they do have an emergency water supply shortage, but in San Diego we don't. So that's kind of the bottom line where everybody's like, okay, but we as Vallecitos have to cut back 24%, even though we're at 100% of water supply. The good news is, from a good standpoint, we're going to take that overall 25% and we're going to store it, put it in San Vicente, and leave it in. So next year, we might get less from Met, but we'll have stored, I think, well, what's 25% of 500, 120, 130,000 acre feet that we'll be putting into local storage. So next year, if we get a lesser amount of an allocation, we'll have already banked carryover water from the prior year. Plus, we'll be getting more IID water next year. So next year, locally again, we'll probably be in decent shape. It's going to be the size of that yellow piece next year. That's what's going to be the killer. So that's kind of the bottom line of San Diego County. As of Thursday, the Water Authority declared it, and I said I'll get you guys a copy of the ordinance, that they're at they're less than 1% shortfall. So we're in good shape locally, but that doesn't really mean much because now we have to look at what the governor said. So the new ordinance that we have proposed for you starts on page 131. The first page is nothing but dates. It's just a historical tracking of all the different things. The governor took his action, when Met took their action, when the Water Authority took their action, when we took ours. So really where we are is the last bullet item on, page 2, third paragraph down. In August of 2014, the board went into a level 2 declaration, but there were no curtailments. It was just more drought stuff. Don't wash your driveway down, don't do something dumb. Just use your water wisely. So that's why we had not gone into drought rates and we didn't have an allocation. It was just mandatory to go to it. So what happened is the state on May 5th, if you go down to section 2 on that page, the governor mandated 4 additional areas that were not covered in our current policy. We didn't want to modify the existing policy because it's still valid The governor's order is only good until 270 days, so we didn't want to modify other policies when it's an emergency action. So that's why you have a separate ordinance in front of you. So what you got under section 2A, this is what Carl was even talking about, getting rid of 500,000 square feet of turf, is no ornamental turf within the public right-of-way. We actually enhanced that a little bit to include exactly what Carl's talking about, is you've got sidewalk, that little mow strip, it's within the right-of-way. But the way people were interpreting it was, well, no, it's the stuff in the center. No, it's the right-of-way.
Both sides.
So we clarified that it's both sides of the paved road as well. And I've actually worked with San Marcos, the city staff, so they understand that as well. You've got the next one down, item B, the use of outdoor water built by the California Building Standards Commission. We heard a preliminary statement on that yesterday and how they want us to do that, and we're all just shaking our head like, yeah, okay. They think they might have the rules promulgated by December. So we're not quite sure what that really means to help. But I think it's pretty clear they don't want you putting in any new houses with grass in the front yard. So I think all of the landscape cities are going to do that. The downside is cities are now doing their stormwater management in a much different way. So if you, I get lost, down the street, the new condos, if you look in the front yard, you see the real tall weeds and you see all DG.
Right.
What they do is they take all their surface runoff, they put it into the, what do you call it, Jim?
Swale.
The wells, bioswale.
Bioswale. The bioswale. So the concern is don't say no turf, because some of it may be purely for stormwater runoff and filtration. So they got to be careful when we say just don't do any front yard landscaping. So it's kind of a trade-off. We have to work on that. The third one is, and this would seem like a common sense thing, but you would be amazed, don't irrigate your lawn when it's raining. Well, Chris will get to that in his report, how many people we've caught doing that. And then the other one is 48 hours with notice. So if you go into section 3, that's where it begins, where we identify that we have a 24% district-wide. Director Evans is right that we were successful in getting them to allow anything under 20% to be aggregated as a region. So we met at the Water Authority last week. Eric Larson from the Farm Bureau has volunteered to take the plan, because none of us know how to develop an agricultural management irrigation plan, but he does. We'll be paying for it. And the way we're going to approach payment, we don't know what it is yet. It will be based on the amount of acreage and the number of meters you have for ag. So we have a very small amount, and they'll be proportionally spread amongst 8 of us. We'll be working on that. It doesn't have to be done and turned in until December. So we'll be working on that as we evolve through this. But the good part is, because we can now take that irrigation water and subtract it from the total that we have to reduce from. So if we can subtract 1,000 acre feet off of 14,000 acre feet, the 24% reduction only goes to the 13,000 now. So it gives us a little bit of breathing room to work on it. So our 24% might be 22.5, but you know, it's better than nothing. We added irrigation. One of the conditions of the Water Authority's ordinance last week is that we all adopt a 2-day irrigation plan, consistent with what the governor did. There was quite a debate down there for, Director Evans probably go into this later in her report, probably an hour, over odd even, which side of the street should be odd, which side of the street should be even. Why don't we do it on Monday between this time and that time, or on Thursday between this time and that time? I talked to Maureen beforehand, and I said, they irrigate at night. Who cares? It doesn't matter. You can't enforce it. Now, if we have to get down to enforcement, then we will, but that just means we've got to put staff out there 8 hours at night. It doesn't work. Bottom line was, it's settled on 2 days a week of irrigation, and it's up to the individual agencies to determine the amount of time per controller. The fuzzy math was, one agency wanted to go from 3 days at 7 minutes to 2 days at 10 minutes. So do the math real quick. You save 1 minute. So you can tell how it's all over the place, but that's the way the Water Authority left it. We're not going to get into your business at the retail level. It's up to you. What we're recommending going is from 3 days at 10 down to 2 days at 8. So it is a 50% reduction in your time. So that's what's in the ordinance. And that is consistent with your other ordinance that you already have of record. So we just duplicated and put it in here. What I did add, I would obviously bring this back to the board before, is we don't know what we're going to get. When you hear what Chris has found at night for irrigation that we're tracking already, it's amazing. I would come back to the board in July if we didn't see a very good reduction in demand, and we're putting the provision in here that it could go to 1 day. But again, we're not going to do that unless we have to. That would come back to the board for that confirmation. So what you've got here is Section 4, which is watering 2 days per week on a schedule to be determined if we need to, for no more than 8 hours per schedule. If they have the high efficiency rotors, stream rotors, or irrigation or drip, they are still exempt from this. And we also exempt nurseries, commercial growers, they remain exempt. A good example was it had to be 1 acre minimum to get the TSAR or the ag rate. But Eric Larson pointed out they've got hydroponics now in small greenhouses that fit in your backyard producing $1 million crops. So we're gonna probably get rid of that 1 acre minimum and say if you do something for commercial purposes that meets the USDA definition of ag, then we're probably gonna exempt them. So we're trying to not harm any businesses as far as the curtailment. That's why we're leaving commercial growers and nurseries included as an exemption, because they recycle the bulk of their water. 8 minutes per section. There's a violations and a penalty section. I added that back in there just to reinforce existing policy that the board has, because we're going to post this on the website, plus put a notice out, just so everybody understands what's happened. By example, last year with all the notices we had, I think you recall, we only had to find 1 person. Everybody else cooperates, and that's the way we're continuing to move forward. So with that little brief explanation, happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we're looking for the board to approve this to be consistent with the state and the Water Authority's action.
Yes, Director Hernandez.
Well, it doesn't have anything to do with the ordinance, but I just need some clarification. One, I have had 2 ratepayers come and, quite frankly, chew my ear off for the same reason. You know, they're cutting back on their groves.
Mm-hmm.
The year you top your grove, you don't have to water.
Right.
So now that they're coming back and they're ready to be watered, the allocation, but I think I heard you say agriculture is exempt.
They're exempt from the 24% from the state. They still have to comply with the TSAR water regulation, because that's coming from Metropolitan.
And that's the 15?
That's the 15.
Okay.
But that's the deal that they signed on to when they get their discounted water rate all year.
So the rub for the people that have talked to me and our friend out there is the date with which this falls into place is the date that they weren't watering, and now they're penalized. Do we have any latitude in that?
That's what we will look into to see where we have movement within our allocation. But again, there's some interpretation of what they're saying on how they do it. But they are correct. If you happen to cut back that year and you didn't use any water in 2013 as the base year, yeah, your number that you're using is a lot less. I don't know how to answer that, Director Hernandez. We have to look into it.
Okay.
But the bottom line is that allocation that we get from Met will be monitored and tracked, and it's not going to be divvied up. I don't know right now that there's even a appeal process to get more.
Well, again, as Director Martin said, would you continue to keep
absolutely.
us informed as to how this is going? And then the other thing is just a bone in my throat that I got to spit out here, where, and you just mentioned it, we've got 99% of our water because we've spent billions of dollars knowing that this is the new normal, and too bad, Sam, you're going to get painted with the same brush. And if this happens next year, I don't know if this ordinance gets reapproved every year or whatever, but I tell you, I will not be voting for it. This is obscene.
If you were at the Water Authority meeting Thursday, you would have heard that from 24 agencies.
Good. Well,
Every one of them. Everybody, Director Evans even said, we've done everything we were told. We completely complied with the state of California's water action plan in every piece. And we did everything to get the desal, the transfers, efficiency. And we're sitting here 23 years later and being told, yeah, thanks.
yeah, and the anger that is multiplied is down south at the end of the pipe, knowing what we know, we've done it. Those people at the beginning of the pipe, well, we got all the water in the world. What the heck do we need to worry about? Well, guess what? They have not done the things that they needed to do. And so now we're suffering
Well, you would have heard it at Aqua, you heard the people, if you were south of the Tehachapies, we got the north-south, we got the Mason-Dixon line through the middle of the state right now. We got our wake-up call in '99. The rest of the state got their wake-up call in 2014. There's no other way to put it.
And the last thing that I wanted to see if anyone is doing anything, in your slides, we continue to see Colorado River average, normal, whatever. It hasn't been average and normal
Except last
for
year.
decades. When are they gonna finally realize that this is the new normal, and they need to take a relook at their Colorado River flows that are not going to go back to anywhere close to that average on average? So, is anyone looking at that?
Well, they look at it. I hate to say it, I'm glad nobody at the board said it yet, is on the press, you heard it on the news last week already, oh man, the new, what do you call that thing? El Nino. That baby's building, the biggest blob of warm water they've seen in decades. Well, you know what? If you go pull the newspaper out from April of last year, El Nino's building. If you go a year back, El Nino's building. And remember how happy everybody was at the beginning of this year? We got a wet December. We were at 108% of normal supply. Boom, then we were at 90, then we were at 75, and we're at 5. But the state even gave allocations last week on the rivers. Because there seemed to be some weird realization that there's not a separate reservoir that feeds the big rivers coming through California. It comes from the same snowpack and rainfall. So even the pre-1914 people are getting allocation reductions on their water supply. So what that means is that extra water they thought they had to sell, they don't have to sell now. Yeah. It's frustrating. I completely agree.
Director Sanella?
Yeah, I got a couple questions about the ordinance, but let me get on Director Hernandez's bandwagon here as well. I agree with them and with the sentiments and his frustration. As I as kind of a relatively new board member, as I get more and more involved in the water community here in San Diego, you talk to your colleagues and other general managers out there, and I heard from a very reliable source that from one of our sister agencies that we often refer to as the gold standard, although I think we are, that we, Vallecitos and this other gold standard agency actually have an excess of water at this moment, which is amazing given that all the publicity and awareness that's out there around the drought. And if there's other parts of the state that are not, have not, invested in the different areas that they need to, it's a shame that San Diegans are paying the price for that. And to that, on that same note, as you guys are out and about at the county water authority, have you heard anything about the water bond that was passed in November? It seems like we passed that. California voters went out and supported it overwhelmingly, and I haven't heard a peep about the $7.4
It's going to take
billion.
them probably another 6 to 9 months just to come up with a process to evaluate and distribute. That's where they're right now. Every jurisdiction, every government agency that's involved, state board, Water Resources Control Board, the health department, you name it. What they've got is, they give it up between all the different agencies. A lot of it's flood protection. So what they're all doing now is coming up with the rules and the process to go about applying and divvying it up. Yeah, approving an $8 billion bond just means there's some money available when you get around to spending it.
No, I understand, but it would be nice if government worked for the people, and maybe they could fast track some of these. Maybe they could even reprioritize how to use that money.
Sure.
If Carlsbad desal plant was roughly $1 billion, and even if it's a little higher when it's all said and done, that sounds like 7 desal plants to me before we did anything else. But it's a shame. And another thing I hear a lot out there too is that we may not necessarily have a drought problem in California. We might have a governor problem. And
we have a water supply problem, but right now we have a jurisdictional imposition of a drought.
yeah, it really is a shame. Now to the ordinance at hand here, I do have some concerns because it does say that if we pass this tonight, it takes effect immediately.
June
and
1st.
There's a couple of these points here in section 2 that concern me, being section 2A with regards to the turf within the right-of-ways. Although I agree that that turf should be replaced and it's just not a good use of water. If this goes into effect immediately, that's going to impact a lot of communities, a lot of government agencies, how exactly is that going to be communicated? Will there be a time frame for which they can actually take that action, or is it just boom, sprinklers off?
Yeah, that's what, and keep in mind, these are law. We're not making
Yeah,
these up.
this is.
We're not
we don't
making
have
these
a
up.
choice.
This is no
not-
choice by us. We're
The
just,
governor's declared this. This
As-
is
as of the
law.
15th, this is the
We're
law.
just, yeah, it's done.
but to go to how we go about it, again, and you'll hear a lot more from Chris on how we're doing this. You know, if you saw any of the news interviews that we had last week, we're emphasizing cooperation, but it's the city. Predominantly, all of these center dividers are the city. I reached out to the city manager a month and a half ago when we got the preliminary rules. They've already started killing and turning them off. So they're already working towards it. We're not gonna walk out and slap somebody over the head with a fine if their irrigation is on. We're gonna tell them they gotta turn it off.
Okay, and I understand that, and again, getting back to the issue in the governor's office, two wrongs don't make a right, and I think that poor government at that level does not necessarily force us to also be a source of poor government as well. And another concern is on B, again, although that makes sense to me, as you had indicated, Dennis, earlier, it's not fully defined, how that's going to be enforced, what it's all going to include. And I don't know if I'm really comfortable passing an ordinance with this body if we haven't defined exactly how we're going to, what the ordinance is going to require people to do, and we haven't communicated to them in a timely manner that that this expectation or this new rule, although it may be dictated from a higher power, again, two wrongs don't make a right. I don't know if I want to participate in that sense of bad government.
This one is actually under the jurisdiction of the land planning body. So it's under the jurisdiction of the city or the
So if
county.
we have so let me ask you this question. If we have no choice in the matter, why are we even voting on it? Why isn't it just, it's done? I mean, what if we vote no? What happens? What if three of us say we're not going to support this?
Not consistent.
You're not going to be consistent with law, Directional, and while I don't disagree
So
with
are we
you.
going to get arrested?
While I don't disagree with you that it's probably an unfortunate thing, you've got to look at what the governor did statewide. From a standpoint of governance, these are law. Okay, so it's passed down to us. We have to do these. We have to enforce. The governor and all the staff of the state board said they understand, but you keep in mind, the governor gave them a mandate to come up with new rules in 30 days. We've been arguing about water in California for 300 years. So is it doable? Is it justifiable? Is it right? Probably not. Are we in the middle of a crisis? Yeah, I think we are. I think you're going to see everybody strive to do this. Whoever the California Building Standards Commission is, like I said, we got some preliminary stuff from them yesterday that they had started working on last week. Are they going to come arrest me? No. Are we as an agency going to look right or wrong by saying that? Hell with them, we're not going to follow that rule. That's up to you guys as an elected board. Does it set a message out to our ratepayers? I think it does. I think it sends a bad message out to them personally. So far, we've received nothing but positive feedback on the way we've approached this. I think we will get there. I think the front yards, you're talking, I don't know what we had in the budget this year, but I think we've been hooking up an average of maybe 60 or 70 homes a year for the past couple of years. So it's not like we're talking 2 or 3, 4, 500 homes or something and have to do this. The developers have voluntarily at this point acknowledged they're going to be putting in front yards with different landscape, no grass. You probably heard it also from the former Marion Mountain. They're proposing no front yard. It'll be all desert landscaping, native landscaping. Right or wrong, I don't know. Are they going to come get us? I don't know. Could they fine us $10,000 a day if we don't pursue all these things? Yes, they can do that. Would they do that? I think they've got other fish to fry and not worry about Vallecitos. So is there a risk there? Perception probably more than valid risk.
If I could
Right,
just-
and then, oh, yes, that was.
Just to follow up to what he was
Sure.
speaking about, I think, Mike, A, B, C, and D, I think you're right. They're all a matter of opinions. A, the use of potable for ornamental. Some are ornamental, some are swales and have to be there by building code. So that's questionable. Potable water, the city uses a lot of well water. It's not potable. During the 48 hours of during the 48 hours of a measurable rain event. What's a measurable rain event at your house? So some of this is common sense, and all leaks 48 hours of notification, or as long as the general manager knows how you're gonna fix it, I guess. It's all just a
All
matter.
common sense stuff.
It's all common sense. There's no hard, I agree with what you're saying, but it's all common sense. It's all, I don't see our water police out there doing anything about it. Although, my question was, to that, because we're spending a lot of money on water police, we don't call them that, but because we're spending a lot of money on that, tell me about the fine. Did we collect the money, that $100 that cost us $10,000 to get?
No, it didn't cost $10,000, to 3 phone calls and we fined them. But they had a leak they weren't trying to find. So once we fined them $100, and it would have been $100 each, or $500 at that point each, so then they found it. It's right for us, right around the corner, departments. Once we find them, they went and found it.
And I was gonna bring this up later, but it came up today in a telephone meeting with Aqua. Are we keeping track of everything we're paying due to this drought emergency for FEMA? Because we might be.
We might be able to get some back.
We might be able to get money back from FEMA for the signs we're making, for everything, the water police.
We opened a work order, so we're tracking every expense that we do that's drought related.
Thank you.
Question, Director Snell?
Yeah,
you
I
did.
wanted to follow up and in venting my frustration with this is not that I didn't agree with these steps.
I get it.
was
It's
clear on that.
frustrating.
I just think that when we're gonna pass an ordinance, and I know that our hands are tied here, and so I'm not taking a shot at our staff or our board or anybody else that's really affiliated with Vallecitos in any way. But when we pass an ordinance, it should be clearly defined. It's not good enough for me just to say it's common sense, because what's common sense to me or any of us might be different to somebody else, or our opinions may be different interpretations to somebody else. It should be clearly defined and be something that can be measurable and enforceable, or we shouldn't pass it. And I understand that this is not of our creation. And again, it gets back to my original point about the issue that we have in Sacramento and the state government. But it's just uncomfortable as a board member that we're put into a position where now we have to, it sounds like we have to support something that, in my opinion, is bad government in the first place. And I'll just leave it at that.
I understand. Even if it wasn't in here, I would have to enforce it.
I get it. I
Yeah,
know
it's frustrating as can be.
Jeff?
And, you know, it's your prerogative how you want to vote on this. It's up to you. But this ordinance, if it does pass, the summary of this is basically is going to be published in the local newspaper. And it's really the implementation of the government's, or the governor's declaration and policy. We're going to have to comply with this, but it's whether or not, you know, and you certainly have the prerogative to vote however you want. But this is basically, this is the beginning, folks. We're going to have some real challenges, you know, as we go through and what you heard so far. And hopefully, because of the dichotomy between what the water authority's coming down with and what the governor's coming down with the 24% cutback, hopefully we'll be able to comply with this. Hopefully we'll be able to get the water savings. That's going to be the challenge through the summer, because we may be in a position of where we take these measures and they're not good enough. And then what's going to come back to you is, okay, what's being dumped on you is you hit this mark. Now, here's some guidelines that the governor is declaring you have to do, but the challenge is these may not be enough. So that's where the rubber will hit the road, and that's where it'll be very difficult for you to try to, you know, accomplish if we aren't able to do that, if the people aren't able to comply with this.
I would just like to say I totally agree with the frustration of the inequity of what's happened, not just on this ordinance in particular, but the fact that the state has overlaid expectations and taken away our regional rights to do what's right for our own locality, and it has ignored all the efforts and the money spent. I mean, they basically don't even agree that allow that we have DSAP coming on board. It's not part of his decision, and that's real and fair. But I do feel also it's very important that we, as a state and as a region, try to go forward with some unity. And your discussion on this ordinance is as for specific expectations that we can declare to people. That was the long discussion at the Water Authority, because some people said, I want you to tell me that on Fridays and Wednesdays, every even-numbered house will turn their water on and they can only do 7 minutes on this time period. There were the other agents saying, we're out in the country, we don't have house numbers that way, and we are entirely different. And the one was, well, how can I enforce it if, you're across the street and your district says you can do it on Wednesday, and my district says I can do it on Thursday, and we're gonna argue. Well, we went for 2 days only because we felt really each locality needed the flexibility to strive to reach their goal. And when I appreciate what we're trying to do here in a situation that's forced upon us is to allow enough flexibility, and it's sort of presenting to the governor that we're gonna support and endorse what you need. The state is in a crisis, we need to take care of it. But we're not nailing ourselves down, and it gives us a lot of room, I think, to plead our case that we're trying if we don't succeed, rather than that we're not trying. So I sort of like that there's the flexibility in there, because I do know we will get hit with the $10,000 fines. That's just my response to that.
I think you just convinced me to vote no. Thank you, though.
That's fine, vote no.
I was leaning towards yes until.
Wow, I feel
Rewind.
so powerful right now.
Well, and the other thing that, it just occurred to me, Director Snell, we also have a working group that the governor agreed to reach out to us on because of the desal, because of the transfers. But as you can imagine, now that they've got a rule in place, we're 6-9 months away. That's the only other thing I can say is this is good for 9 months. It's a temporary emergency regulation. That's why we're adopting a second regulation, a separate ordinance, because it's meant to deal with the emergency. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and I'll say one more thing, and then I would encourage my colleagues never to vote for an ordinance or a law just to go along to get along with the governor or the state. If it makes sense to you and it's the right thing to do and it's going to be good for our district and our customers, then by all means vote for it. But just to go along to get along and to show a united front when it's a bad law or a bad ordinance is not a good reason to support something. And then we'll move on to the next thing.
Thank you. Director Clark.
Yeah, on the section 2B with regard to the California Building Standards Commission, was that specifically called out in the governor's
Yes.
mandate?
Yep. They changed it from no outdoor, no ornamental irrigation of your front yard unless it's with drip or a micro spray. They took that provision out and said to be done by the standards developed by this group. So that was actually in his action.
I guess as a comment to Director Sinella, with kind of the vagueness of what they may come up with, we could always modify this ordinance. If they come in from left field and there's something totally outlandish, I mean.
But it's going to be effective immediately after
Right,
it
no,
passes.
that's
So
certainly.
we don't know what we're passing. That's the problem. That does not make any sense to me whatsoever. And I understand where our hands are tied, but it's.
Thank you.
I have one other question.
Yes.
Related to the SAR ag allocation, the 1,170 acre feet that's after the MWD cut?
That is the MWD cut. That is the MWD cut.
That's the cut itself?
Yeah, that's the cut itself. It only gets applied to the SAR, to the ag people.
And so
That's the allotment, that's the
That's the
allotment. So it
allotment.
was
That's the-
1,300 before,
Yeah,
then you take
okay.
85% of what 2013 was, and 1,107 is the result.
Like I said, I'll get you a copy of the ordinance they just adopted, but on the back is the allocation for the
And
zone.
so my question related to that is, have you looked at how those ag customers are doing with relation to that, in relation to that?
We just got it Thursday. Chris has sent out a new certification letter. They met with the ag people last Thursday night here, had an open workshop with them to bring them in and talk to them.
You haven't looked at their usage yet
No,
to
so
see if it-
we're just now doing that.
We looked at 2013 already, and they already know what their allotment is
Yeah.
based on that, but we haven't looked at a trend since 2013.
Yeah, I'm wondering what the
Not
actual
yet.
usage has been, if that's,
No.
Yeah.
if they're
I
gonna
don't
be
have
able
it
to
yet.
make that.
And if we can fit within our allocation, we'll be more than happy to move it around amongst the growers as much as we can.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any more comments? Director Martin?
I have one comment, again on section 2, and in listening to it, that's why I like making a decision here on the dais. I have to agree with Director Sinella. A, B, C, and D are really all farces. They really don't mean anything, other than, it's not even rattling of swords. I mean, it means absolutely, none of them mean anything as far as enforcement, or as far as a real rule. So I don't understand the necessity for it, to be honest. But that's just me going, I didn't think they'd come in the meeting, but now I'm looking at it going, every one of them has an escape clause, and every one of them is up to common sense or someone's point of view. So they're not legally, there's nothing, I don't see anything legal about any one of the 4 of those.
Well, let me just add that they are, in this sense, the governor is gonna have power, and through the State Water Resource Control Board,
Right.
to impose fines on this agency for noncompliance.
Right.
And I don't wanna convince you to vote one way or another, but intent's gonna be looked at. I mean, if we, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if they're gonna start fining us. I can't predict that. But if you get into a scenario where you got a board that says, we're not, I can't even understand this, what you're suggesting. This is all coming from, these are regulations from the State Water Resource Control Board. I'm just saying that I think there is a issue here that you need to be mindful of, that this is gonna be looked at potentially as to whether or not we're trying to enforce or implement the intent of these mandates. And that may be helpful down the road if it shows that, look, we took your guidelines, we incorporate them, we don't understand them completely, there's some wiggle room in here, but we're trying to implement what's been put in front of us as a local agency. So there may be some benefit to that, and it may be important down the road from a legal standpoint.
A, C, and D are enforceable. We can take care of A, C, and D.
Director Hernandez?
Well, is there a way this evening that we can put in some specificity for A, B, and C? The measurable rainfall, which to my mind is, my goodness, you put your hand out, rain, that's measurable. I don't care if it's only a little bit of a measurement, but it's still measurable. But by adding a sentence in there that over 0.001 of an inch is, do not water.
Where?
In that particular
Where?
section.
Do I
Whose
measure
house?
it at Lindbergh Field? Do I measure it at Hal's
At your
condo?
home.
At my home? And again,
And
as
that's
Jeff
the
was saying,
question.
and I get it,
Good
what
question.
you guys,
We should define that.
what you're talking about is, but now you're trying to define a state law. And I get that it's ambiguous. And again, you guys, when
Welcome to my world, by the way.
when you walk into my world now of having to enforce a policy, okay, Mike, so like I said, I'm the one that's gonna enforce this, not you.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, the trust that you guys give me is to enforce it to the best of my ability. Okay, I don't have an ability to enforce it. Yeah, it's of record, but it's not my call to enforce, it's the jurisdictional land body. And the odd even days of irrigation, I'm not gonna go tell our ratepayers when they can irrigate. I'm gonna tell them between these hours and no more than 8 minutes. I can check that, I can do that. I can stand out front with a timer. Nope, you did 12 minutes, knock it off. The irrigation on a landscape, I'm gonna call Carl and say, you're not supposed to be doing that in your HOA. Okay, I told you. He's gonna try to not do it. If he keeps doing it, I'll have to enforce it. But these are things that, I totally get it. But the other thing I will also tell you is a lot of these decisions and everything that you're talking about right now, the gentlemen that were sitting in the audience from the bond rating people, they also look at this stuff. Are you guys enforcing and complying with the actions of the state? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Yes, no. These things all tie together in perception, the press, your ratepayer, my ability to do what I've got to do. Because it's here, I'm gonna do my best, but I'm not gonna go out and browbeat anybody on this. I think we're gonna get what we need by the work that our staff does. I think we're gonna get it. I agree with you, Director Sinella, it's frustrating as hell. We wrote letter after letter after letter. I can't remember how many they said. They got 470 comment letters on these simple, silly little rules. What came out of it, we went from 24% to 26% to 24%. I get it.
I would also like to clarify, I get it too, Director Sinella, and I believe, however, the water shortage issue is critical, and I think it's ongoing, and we as a state truly need to take it seriously and readjust how we're gonna manage our resources. When I said, I wasn't saying go along with the governor just because. I think Jeff said it much more eloquently for me. I think it's important that we show the intent of support. And that's what we're doing here. We've agreed to the basics, and without adding a lot of specificity to it, we are saying, we hear you and we support you. And we're now in the good graces, hopefully, that in our efforts of reaching our goal, we will achieve it without that. So that's where I was. It was more of the intent of what we're trying to accomplish with the ordinance, and we are responsible for it. But if it's just to discuss, argue with me, well, we can
No,
do that
of course not.
outside. Okay.
It's the lack of definition that is the problem. And I can tell you because I participate in speaking to community groups. I've written articles in over the last 6 to 8 weeks. I do, as you guys know, a lot of interaction with our customers through social media. And the number one response I get on Facebook and others is, I don't know exactly what you want me to do. And this is just more of the garbage that we're gonna be putting out there on behalf of the governor that is unclear, undefined, and really, you might be able to try to enforce it, but it's not clearly enforceable. And all we're doing is adding to the frustration of all of San Diegans and all of our customers, and we're adding to the confusion because there's not a clear definition. And I see it almost every single day with my interactions with our customers.
I understand what you're saying. The very bottom line is simply you need to tell your customers and your clients just the basics. As we're saying, pull out your 213 bills, deduct 24%, and that's exactly what we want from you. That's the bottom line. That's what the governor's kind of said. And he says, I don't.
I'd feel better if this ordinance said that.
Well, but he's also declared how we should do it. I know what you're saying, and I believe I saw a hand over here, Director Martin?
Yeah, I have a question, Council. Is this a boilerplate thing that was sent out to all the San Diego concerns, or did we actually draw this up ourselves?
We took what the governor, his proclamation, we looked at what the ordinances that we got from the Water Authority, and we tried not to reinvent the wheel and make it as simple as possible, and basically implement what the governor had mandated, and incorporate that into our existing ordinance. I mean, Dennis certainly worked on this, and I took a stab at it, and yeah, that's what we did. Because we're kind of in a rock and a hard place. We've got the Water Authority ordinance, governor mandates. We need to basically dovetail both of those two.
If the board has a concern about that, I do need the direction on this ordinance to move forward in 2 days, plus the other verbiage that's in here. So if there's any concern on behalf of the board, if there is a motion moving forward, I would need to walk out of here with the resolution saying I can do it to comply with the Water Authority's mandate on us for 2 days. I believe the 2-day level goes into level 3 if you go to our standard policy. We don't want to go to level 3.
Director Martin?
I'm just suggesting, is there a way for us in section 2 to change, seeing as we need to get that message across, is there a way to change the wording to make it a more positive rather than, it's pretty loose and lackadaisical. As you said, B is nothing we can do about it, that's the land use authority. So why do we have it in there at all? Because it's not.
These are the governor's terms. These are copied out of the law.
I understand, but is that something the governor's telling us that we need to pass an ordinance saying that? Because the city needs to do that, we can't do that. I'm just saying, why are we even entertaining beyond here when we have clearly nothing to do with it?
If that's the board's choice, if you want to move with section 2 to remove everything in section 2, then I would say make a motion to approve the ordinance without section 2. The problem is, Director Martin, I still have to enforce these 4 provisions.
Well, yeah, but B, you can't, there's not much you can do about it.
We're just restating with the governor to show the intent, as Jed said. If the board chooses to take those out, it's still gonna be the ambiguity of whether or not how I do it. It's just not in the policy that you adopted. I still have to comply with these 4 items, period. If you take the motion to approve it and take it out, that's fine.
Director Hernandez.
And I'm going to support the motion if it's for approval, because I am the person that has been to many of these, or in the engineering department and over at the city, where I've said, I want to see what this ordinance is. I know you're saying that I have to do this, but I want to see it because I know the difference between ordinance and policy, and sometimes it's policy that you want me to do, and I don't want to do your policy.
Yeah,
So
good point.
with the ordinance, these are what I have to do. So with that, I would move to approve the resolution as submitted.
I'll second that.
Okay.
More conversation? Of anyone I know, Mr. Hernandez, in the world, you've done more to pick apart these things. So you see what we're talking about here. You're just choosing not to, because you're very good at doing that, and you have been over the years, much to your great success. But I'm just saying, you can see it here as well.
And
They can
believe
pick
me,
them apart.
I've, like I said, measurable, stick your hand out. That's measurable. Goodbye here, Mr. Hernandez.
Well, and that's your opinion of it.
No,
right.
that's anybody's.
Well, why don't we have a motion and a second in front of us to accept the ordinance as presented, as submitted? Would you like to take a roll call vote?
You have a motion and a second, yeah?
Oh, I have a motion and a second to accept it as submitted. Okay, we'll do roll call.
This will be ordinance 195. Director Elazar?
Yes.
Director Hernandez?
Yes?
Director Martin?
Yes.
Director Snella?
No.
Director Evans?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
It passes with 1 no. Thank you.
And trust me, as soon as I get anything from anybody about where I'm supposed to go on this, I'll be back here telling you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank all
Good
of you.
discussion.
Great, it was a good discussion, good questions, good concerns, and I think we're really all speaking from one place.
If you want to hear even more to further what you're talking about, go to the recorded minutes of the board meeting Thursday at the Water Authority. You'll hear that in
Over and
and over and over and over again.
And the
You're
state
you're not the
board-
only one frustrated.
I understand, and I've already been hearing it as I'm out and about, like I indicated.
Yeah.
I just can't support, if half the county and the water industry doesn't agree with it, then why should we?
But you will find they're all gonna be accepting it, I'm sure.
Maybe they will, maybe, they have to live with their decisions.
They do. Okay. Item 2.5, award,
Nope,
no.
2.4.
2.4, I'm moving very quickly. Drought update. This will be by Chris. We do have a drought, Chris, you are aware.
Yes.
Didn't this used to be Tom's update?
He
Say that
talks
again?
too much.
Didn't this used to be Tom's update?
He delegated.
Oh, yeah, he delegated it. I get the joy. So General Manager Lamb gave an update on a lot of the regional drought information, and mine is more of a drill down to the district itself. And you're all aware that we're in a level 2, that the board implemented level 2 back in August of 2014. And you're all aware that the State Water Resources Control Board put those, implemented those restrictions on May 5th, and that was based on the governor's executive order, which was on April 1st. And so our requirement for the district, as you heard earlier, was to get a 24%, almost a quarter, reduction in consumption for our usage. So right after that, district employees were put out on drought patrols in the early morning hours, starting on May 11th. Staff are on the lookout for, runoff in the curbs, over irrigation, irrigating between, the middle of the day, between 10 and 6, just like our existing ordinance says. First-time violators, they'll get a phone call from the district announcing that, we've noticed that there was some sort of violation at their specific property. We'll make sure we give them details on what exactly it was that we observed at their property. And we really want to educate them General Manager Lamb was on several news stations, Channel 8, 5, 7, I think 10 did their own, and we were also picked up by Univision in Spanish. Maria Carbone, one of our customer service reps, did that. I think that's the first time we had an actual Spanish station come to the district and get an interview, which was a really surprising thing. I sent the links. I hope you all got a chance to look at the links. They're in your packet. They may have expired now. Sometimes the news stations put those links up and then pull them away very quickly. But it was a good outreach to the press releases. Got a lot of coverage from the media and a lot of good feedback from the staff. We trained staff on what we want them to do out in the field. They're really going to be just very observant, taking down info on their loggers and not really approaching customers. They're going to be out in the pre-dawn hours. We don't want any of our staff, approaching people's houses at 4:30 in the morning and taking photos or anything. We're just, knocking on doors. We're not doing that. Just collecting the info. We do have to report these activities to the State Water Resources Control Board, that we're making efforts to enforce the restrictions and the drought restrictions. So this is our method to do that. Some of the information from our consumption figures was that April was down 6.92%, almost 7% from last year, and then almost 12% from the year before. And I'm really interested to see next month when I come back and do this report. May was that really hot month a year ago. We had the Cocos fires, basically, almost a year ago last week, I think, last Thursday, and the consumption was way, way up. And now we've had these really nice rains lately, and I think that's really going to drive consumption down, and we're going to have some nice water savings to report. At least that's my guess. If I'm wrong, I don't know. Tom will get me if I'm wrong. Water consumption for the individual customers for residential, it was 92 gallons per day residential as compared to 99 last year in April. I expect that number to really drop. Again, like I said, it's going to drop from that May a year ago with the fires and the heat to this May with its nice, comfortable weather. Some of our good outreach activities, I hope you all know, we did that Water Academy. It was a really good success. I got a lot of nice comments. About James back there. That's just all I'm going to say about that. And we've been busy handling a lot of waterways calls. And just today I was over with City of San Marcos Stormwater. We were doing H2O for HOAs. So talking to HOA groups about both stormwater pollution prevention, but also water conservation. It was a nice mix, and I worked back and forth with their staff back and forth on the two things and the differences between the storm drains and the sewers. Really good presentation. I think we had 23 different HOAs show up. Nice turnout for a first effort. I think we'll do it again. Maybe wait a year, but nice partnership between the district and the city of San Marcos. In your packet, there's a graph of the drought call breakdown, and you can see that it's peaked back up again. We had those kind of low levels, people over Christmas, the holidays, you don't get so many drought calls, and it kind of fades out of people's minds. But with the governor's executive order and it being on television, boy, those drought calls going back up quite a bit. Fiscal impact, unfavorable budget variance of 0.4 million. So not particularly favorable. Obviously, we're not getting the same sort of revenue with the lower consumption, but I think we've managed that very well. And I'm ready to take questions.
Yes,
Yeah.
Director Martin.
A couple of questions. Last year we did the water tour. I think we met here in the morning and we did a little good morning, how are you, thanks for coming, and Mr. Sinella and I were here, and Mr. Sinella. This year you changed it to lunch, which, unless I didn't get the memo I heard about the day before when you sent out something saying, oh, we're doing that lunch tomorrow, I was like, well, we didn't do a lunch before, I had it scheduled for the morning. no big deal, I couldn't make it in the afternoon. Is that gonna be at lunch from now on, or is that gonna change, or what's the
So-
variable?
Some of it's open to board members to meet them and mingle in the morning and at lunch. I think we all kind of liked that
It actually
format.
started in the morning at the normal time. We just
Yeah.
had the lunch here instead of out in the field.
Yeah.
I knew you had the lunch here.
Yeah, but it started in the morning at the
I didn't
normal time.
realize that, because
Yeah.
it said you can come and mingle at lunch, wear your badges. But
Yeah.
it was lunch, it didn't say you were still meeting in the morning.
That's probably my mistake as the
That's
new guy.
okay, I just made the assumption, we won't be
Yeah.
there in the morning, I can't make lunch, so I won't go.
Gotcha.
So my bus, I'll know better next time.
Yeah, and it's a good chance, and they're early arrivers for the most part.
Thank you.
Additional?
Yeah, thank
That's
you.
it?
We'll make
That's
sure
all?
we're clear on that next time.
Sorry, yes, Director
Thanks.
Snell.
Yeah, Chris, I just wanted to just give you a real big thank you for all the efforts that you and your team have been doing. I see you guys out there all the time now, big street fairs and the Water Academy. I follow social media and all the different outlets that the district's involved with. Quite frankly, probably too much, like on an hourly basis. And I see you guys there all the time, and I love the messaging that you guys are getting out there. The TV media that you got on the water patrols was phenomenal. Again, some of the feedback I've heard from our colleagues at other water districts is that we've really, wrapped our arms around this and have been proactive and have taken ownership of communicating these drought conditions to our customers and what's the best of our ability, what's expected of them. And I know that in large part is under your leadership, so I'm very grateful for that.
I appreciate that so much, but I do have to give a shout out. This district and the help I get from different staff in different departments kind of amazes me every day. Just the support I get from customer services, the support I get from engineering, the support I get from our office staff. Ed's group are out doing the patrols on our behalf, coming to the training and learning how to do what they need to do, kind of, a big change for them. The level of how impressed I am with the staff here at this district is beyond what I can express here today.
Chris, could you tell how many waste calls we've actually had at night? This will amaze you.
So typically we'll get about 40 that the staff will do on their patrols. And the stat that I logged away for myself was at a specific snapshot in time of the 100, and I think it was, 58 water waste drought patrol actions where they observed some sort of water waste on a patrol. It was just runoff. It was just irrigation going into the gutters,
Sprinklers
going
on
into the
roads,
curbs.
and then just name it.
So just almost all of them. We did have one of the local restaurants over here that was irrigating during the rain. So I guess that one where, it was observed in or during the actual rain where it was hitting the ground, I guess that one was an actual, during a rain event. But just one of those that I'm aware of at this point.
Chris, you're saying in the first week of our patrols, which are going in the mornings for 4 to 8 o'clock or something like that? Is
In
that
the pre-dawn hours, yeah. a couple
pre-dawn hours? They've already spotted 158
That was basically,
irrigational situations, and then they leave the flag or whatever they do to,
that was last week.
That was
So,
last
Yeah,
week.
so it's gone up since then. I can get an updated
Oh, that
statistic.
would be
And I'll
very
probably continue
interesting
to bring updated statistics,
follow
because it's
that.
probably worth knowing. And it's also what I need to report to the State Water Resources Control Board. So I can just include that stat. But this is very new. It's new for the district. It's new for all of us. But we're grinding through it. And Shannon Danko, I don't know if you get to see her very often, but just a warrior in helping to get the complaints logged and into the billing system so that our customer service reps are aware of what's going on. You don't want to have something happening and not have your phone support be aware that, water waste was observed at the property.
thank you. Director Martin?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, just as a tag on to Director Sinella's, because we were gone that week, the majority of us think up at Aqua when the PR hit, and I DVR a lot. So I'm still watching programs, and I see the Vallecitos truck on the programs. So a little news brief to break into. So really kudos for getting the PR word out there and getting those stations up here to do that coverage and being the first one out there. Because we had our logo, and a lot of people realized that and say, hey, you guys are the ones on the news. So great job to everyone involved on that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah,
Yes.
just a quick question on the statistics of the water waste that's been observed. How much of it's been call-ins from people versus observed by staff?
So, and we've started to pull in, we're using this e-logger as the kind of the data source to kind of manage all of it. So even if we get information that comes in via the website, because we do get those, and the customer service reps get phone calls, but we're bringing them in through the e-logger so we can get those totals. And I don't have a stat right in front of me, but you're typically getting several, and I mean several, like under 10 email water waste complaints a day, and several less than 5 phone call water waste complaints or reports per day. So I mean, a vast volume is coming from the patrols out there looking.
And if you figure if they're probably watering for 15 minutes twice a night, we're saying knock it back to 8 or 10 minutes. Your lawn will still be green, you just won't have mushrooms. I mean, growing in your front yard. I mean, but it's amazing, out of the ones, the 158, those are all observed by people at night, just driving around. And you're talking random. Ed broke it up into 4 quadrants, 78 and Twin Oaks.
I was saying,
And-
when you say people driving around, you mean our patrol?
Our patrols.
That's why.
That's just a
Correct.
random, that
Correct.
they visually have seen those, and that's just, if we happen to drive down that cul-de-sac at the time the sprinklers are on. We could go back the next week and find 6 more.
And I wanted to ask how, and maybe this is a question patrol would like to answer, is how did you just set it up, and how do the patrols do it, and is it random, so you truly are catching people on a random basis? Are you making follow-ups? Is there a timing?
Truly. And so Ed did divvy even though we have 5 districts, he divvied it into 4 quadrants for the patrols. And he's got them spelled out in specific areas, and they're able to look at some of the pressure zones and see where the consumption's occurring and kind of direct staff into that area. And I'm hoping as the staff, as they do this and continue to do it, they'll be more familiar with, oh yeah, we've been here before. I recognize that one. Internally, we're able to look at that, keep it within the North Star system and track, oh, okay, this is the first time we've seen this, and we'll keep tracking to see if it continues to occur again and again and again. But I'm hoping that as the staff that are out in the field do it, that they'll become more familiar with the individual, property and locations that it happens again and again.
Ed, would you like to add anything to that explanation? I'm quite curious on what the patrol is feeling and what the expectations are and
One
how
of the
we're
things
gonna
that-
follow through.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the things that might surprise you is it's one vehicle with 2 staff members in it that are catching this many. We're averaging about 50 a morning. So they start at 4:30 in the morning and leave the yard, and they're out on patrol until 8:30, and then they rejoin the rest of their staff in their department. So it's only one vehicle that we started with to see what we would catch out there, and then we can increase that if we're not getting compliance and we're not meeting that 24%. But he's right, the 4 quadrants, we split it, and we're rotating around as to which quadrant is hit on which day each week, because it's different staff members each week. There's another thing I was gonna bring up. We didn't want to tell staff members, well, you're now going on this shift, because they start at 4:30, so they're getting off at 2 instead of 4, because their normal shift is 6:30 to 4. So we wanted volunteers, and over 2/3 of the staff in O&M volunteered to do that.
Is
So they're
that
not
why
getting
we
any
trained
overtime,
100?
they're working regular hours for them, they're just shifting for that week. So it's not costing the district any extra money.
Well done. And unless there's other comments, thank you, Director Sinella, for a very beautiful thank you to, I agree, and I have to tell you, I do follow a little bit of the social media now on Vallecitos, and I wasn't able to make the aqua thing, so I was very excited just to get the links and see what was going on. And thank you also, Director Martin, you made a very good comment. Thank you, you did a beautiful job of it.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you both.
Stay there.
Okay, I would like you to stay there, but if it's all right, I would like to call a 5-minute recess.
Sure.
You are not allowed to move.
Pause.
Okay.
The city's not far. We can come down.
The rest of the items are pretty easy.
Okay, back to 2.5, award of the construction contract for South Lake Sluice Gate replacement.
Say that 3 times fast. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. Beginning on page 139 of the board packet is a project that's actually been in the budget for several years as we've tried to resolve the problem of our sluice gate at our South Lake Dam being inoperable. In February of 2013, we contracted with Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, their dive team, to make the repairs. They went down a few dives and found that it was beyond them, which was kind of shocking to us because that's what they do. They did give us some references to call. We contacted 3 of the specialized dive teams that they gave us in California. 2 of them were non-responsive. They didn't meet the requirements of our request. And C&W Diving Services did come out and they performed an initial dive, and they gave us a quote off the information from that report. You'll see that we have budgeted $250,000. The purchase and installation costs from C&W Diving is $160,900. Staff and outside services is $16,260. And the staff would recommend awarding a contract for South Lake Sluice Gate replacement to C&W Diving Services Incorporated in the amount of $160,900, subject to the provisions of the contract. And take questions on this project.
Director Hernandez.
Did we get a reduction because the reservoir's down?
We've actually joked that if this drought continues, we won't need a dive team. They just go in hip waders and do the job. Actually, as low as the lake is, there's still about 20 feet of water over the top of the gate.
Director Sinella.
Thanks, Ed. And I know from the tour that you gave me of South Lake recently that this is needed, and the previous discussions we had it. But this is more just kind of my education on sluice gates. This kind of bluish and yellow circle thing that you have here, is that it's like basically a pipe, and then you have another pipe that goes up this way that you can open up and let the water drain out flat this way?
The sluice gate itself is really a flat piece of stainless steel, and so the pipe, it goes over the entrance point of the pipe. So it's just going to slide, close it, and then slide back out. And then there's the stem that you saw going down the dam face, all of that will get replaced as well because it's completely non-operable.
Will a new sluice gate give us the capability to kind of open and close it periodically to let, if we ever did have, more rain and the opportunity for it to be able to kind of let water flow and be able to control that flow, if we so choose to?
Right now, there's a drain on the other side of the dam that we do operate on an annual basis, and the State Division of Safety of Dams comes out and inspects that and watches us operate that drain. The sluice gate will normally be in the closed position once a new one's installed, and that will be operated probably on a monthly basis just to make sure it doesn't seize up on us. And then annually, we'll actually operate the drain again.
Thank you.
Director Martin.
How long is that sluice gate that's currently there? It's the original one. How long has it been in operation?
How long has it been non-operational?
How long has it been there?
It's been there since 1954 when it was installed.
How long has it been non-operational?
It wasn't working when I started in 1989, so I'm not really sure how long before that.
That's why we had the second valve downstream, they accepted that, but
Yeah.
over the years, the things have gotten more enforced, so they said, go put a new one in.
Excellent deferment plan.
And I hate to go back, but to Director Hernandez's comment, in the '93 drought, when we had the March Miracle, We had scheduled the repair, and the water level was so low, all they were gonna do was float a caisson out there, drain it, and do it in the dirt. And it was scheduled to happen right before the March Miracle. So we went from no water in the reservoir to spilling, releasing water within a week. So that's how long this thing's been on the books.
Oh, thank you, okay. Well, I believe we need a motion to accept, and a second to accept, award this contract. Is that correct?
Move to approve. I was just gonna dig it up.
Second.
Great, we have a motion and a second to accept, to award the contract for South Lake Sluice Gate replacement to the C&W Diving Services in the amount of $160,000, subject to provisions of the contract. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 2.6, it is also at,
Yes,
this is
thank
on
you.
page 142.
Yes, that's correct, page 142 of the packet. Back in February of this year, we were contacted by, actually a member of UCSD that is part of this program working with the County of San Diego. This is a Ethernet radio link throughout the County of San Diego and beyond that they've been working on to improve communications, specifically here in San Diego County for CAL FIRE and our local county fire departments to improve internet communications and then also emergency communications during major events like last May when we had 10 or 11 different fires burning in the county. So they have looked at Mount Whitney, which is Coronado Hills Tank is on Mount Whitney, as a site to create a final link where they could see their Sampa Squall Fire Department and bring that into the system. We met with them in February up at the tank site. They ran some initial tests and proved that where we have a current radio repeater for our SCADA, you guys remember what SCADA is, right? Supervisor Control and Data Acquisition. I don't want Director Martin to yell at me. For that radio, it actually turns out to be a perfect site. We were actually going to put in the budget for a new antenna mast for our repeater there because it's not quite high enough. So when they approached us, we talked to them about, well, you buy the materials and we can do the labor, it'd be a win-win. We get our repeater higher up like we want it, and they're gonna put a Ethernet radio on there. And it's a nonprofit organization, so it's kind of a win-win. If you will remember, we did a similar agreement with the seismic system out at one of our tank sites where we have a nonprofit organization and they have a global system where they're using seismic sensors and linked in, I think it was about 3 years ago, Dennis?
Yeah, USGS.
With USGS, so that's actually on part of our property, with similar agreement. So we worked with them on producing this agreement you have before you.
Are there any questions or comments? Director Hernandez? Director Martin. Turned my head the wrong way.
Well, you talked about the County of San Diego, then you talked about a nonprofit organization. Who's the deal with, the county or with the nonprofit organization?
It's with the County of San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who's the nonprofit?
Well, it's UCSD. They're involved in it. There's another, I'm trying to look at which.
Cal,
one it is.
Cal Fire, US Fire,
Cal
Forest
Fire.
Service.
So more public than nonprofit.
Okay.
It's not an NGO.
Okay, thank you, okay.
Director Illick?
Yeah, just for my own education, do we have lease agreements with commercial entities as well for
Yeah,
different sites?
yes, whenever we have one that is with the cell phone guys,
Yeah.
we have a monthly rent they pay us plus an escalator every year and everything else. So anybody that is for profit, we actually do it on a lease basis.
Okay, thanks.
We entered into another agreement like this about 3 years ago with the USGS, but Valley Center Water District. They had an area over in Harmony, north end of Escondido. Jesmondino, thank you, where their SCADA wouldn't reach it, so they actually bounced it off one of our towers to get to their area. Similar agreement.
One more question.
Yes, and then.
Does this tie into other adjacent counties, or is it solely just San Diego County?
Their system goes all the way up to San Clemente Island and in that area and all the way down to the border. So it's a large system that they're linking together. It's more for emergency response during major events is what this
Well,
plan
I'm
is.
curious because, I mean, each county goes through this, but it seems to me like it should be linked county to county for a statewide.
This does go beyond San Diego
Okay.
County. It's more of a regional approach.
Director Martin?
As an add-on, with the cell towers that we lease with, is that a separate, because I haven't seen it, but is that a separate income line that we show that every year?
If you look at our, it's in miscellaneous, and I'll show you where it is here. If you go towards let me find it first.
You guys know the budget.
Oh,
No,
trust you.
on the-
We'll just-
on the
we'll
report.
follow up and let you know
It's
where
on,
it's
it's
at.
on the revenue
Okay.
report.
Yeah.
It's here.
Just let me know what it is, because I know like we have the prime sites all over the city as compared to the school district, and yet the school district makes quite a fortune from it. So we should be too, but I just don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is on page, I'm almost there, 24? 27, thank you, John, 27. And there's an other revenue line, the top of the report has revenue and an other revenue line.
Okay.
And it's in there, but it's pretty
With
small.
other things or by itself as other revenue?
No, with other things, it's only about 30 grand a year, I think, probably about 30 grand a year.
Really, for the prime sites all over town?
There's not that many.
Not that many. We only have, I think,
three or three
Really?
lease agreements, yeah.
2 lease agreements?
Yeah, we don't have 2 or 3 lease
I
agreements.
think it's 3.
They try, I hate to say it, but they prefer to reach out to the HOAs because they're very easy to negotiate with, and they don't put terms in there like insurance and all the kind of stuff that we have as a public agency.
But they don't have the property sites that we have either.
Yeah, they don't always go for the top of the hill. That's what's
Yeah,
amazing, is they're
depends
not
on
always
what they
looking at the
find.
hill. They're trying to get in the valleys and down into the low spots.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. So, we need a motion to authorize, and a second to authorize a communication site license agreement with the County of San Diego.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed? It passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Chris.
Ed. Okay, item 2.7. This is going to be presented by James, who will explain what those comments were all about at the Water Academy.
Yeah.
Well, I recommend that we put a bodyguard with James whenever he goes to Lake San Marcos now.
You know, it's Mr. Wonderful, it goes with the name.
You know,
Accept it, move on.
it does. Okay, James. And James.
You know, we've been trying to break that
Yeah,
for many
it's
years
not gonna
now.
happen.
You're not helping.
Okay, well, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. This item, acceptance of Linda Vista East Sewer Project, starts on page 162 of your packet. This is basically the acceptance of a project that was brought to the board earlier. It's about 3,000 feet of 15-inch sewer line that was put in. And you can see from the map, it started over here at Furniture Row, then went across the freeway with a tunnel onto Grand, and then went through over by the existing storm drain onto the Bigsby property, what I believe was Amstar.
Yeah.
Building, over onto Via Veracruz, and then down Linda Vista all the way to Las Posas. It actually had a couple tunnel sections, obviously under the freeway. We also had a tunnel section underneath the triple box culvert at Linda Vista and Las Posas. So it was a fairly complicated project. I'm happy to report that the project came in under budget and with a $92 change order credit towards the district for a reduction in basically slurry paving on the Amstar property itself.
$92, baby.
Also, along with this project, we had about 750 feet of replacement pipe from inside that storm drain channel off of Grand onto the Bigsby property or the Amstar property. And that portion was partially reimbursed, is going to be reimbursed to us by the city of San Marcos per agreement. They're improving that storm drain, and they were required to move the 8-inch pipe out of the storm drain, and then we upsized it, and we paid for the upsizing. They paid for the initial cost of moving the pipe out of the storm drain for their convenience. With that, unless there's any other questions, staff recommends acceptance of the project, filing the notice of completion, and authorizing the release of retentions to the contractor within the 60-day period.
Have any question, comments, or a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and approved to accept the project, right? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. It passes unanimously. I'm obviously losing it, so I might start coughing and hand this over. You?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, thank you, James. I believe you also do 2.8?
This is a resolution to adopt the 2013 San Diego Integrated Regional Water Management Plan update. Basically, this is an item that the staff should have brought to the board with the Lift Station 1 project award. As the board may be aware, the Lift Station 1, we're getting a grant for about $338,000 from the state. One of the requirements to actually get the money from the state is the governing body has to adopt the resolution basically supporting the IRWM for the region. So with that, the district is seeking the reimbursement for the Lift Station 1 project, and the district is also going to go after additional fundings for work at our Meadowlark treatment plant, and also work at Mar Reservoir, which are both recycled water facilities. With that, staff recommends adoption of the attached resolution, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Director Martin?
Probably wrong job, but lift station number 1, has the work that we were doing and putting doors in, and has that been completed?
The contractor's actually just been awarded the contract, got their contracts in, and we had the pre-construction meeting. He'll be out there this summer starting that work.
No, you're
Oh,
talking
I'm
the odor
sorry.
control. The odor control
The odor
system is
control
in,
system.
we're waiting for the permit to operate, and the doors are almost done and ready to get put on.
Oh, my apology.
Wrong project.
Very good. Doors, again, they haven't been there since before Ed was born. So it's the first time that doors are going to be put on this facility that sorely needs it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Ed wasn't born that long ago.
That's true.
Got your back.
Okay, a motion and a second to adopt this resolution as presented.
So moved. As presented.
Second.
Thank you.
Somebody's.
This is, we have a motion to adopt the resolution. It's been seconded, and this will be roll call.
This will be resolution 1469. Director Vallecitos?
Yes.
Director Hernandez?
Yes.
Director Martin?
Yes.
Director Sinella?
Yes.
Director Evans?
Yes.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
2.9 is the Aqua Region 10 Nominating Committee seeking Region 10 Board candidates. It's on page 168. Dennis, did you have anything?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. They're looking for the chair and the vice chair for Region 10. If anybody on the board does want to run, they do need to get a nomination from their board, and we would support that.
Anyone interested?
The chair positions, if you go to page 169, it starts to identify the duties that you have. So, I mean, you do have to attend like quarterly meetings up in SAC, and there's quite a bit to do here. So it's just here for your pleasure if any of the board members are interested in wanting to be nominated.
Is there a date? Yes, Jim.
Just a question. I believe the Director Martin is our representative for Region 10 on the Aqua Board. And I don't know if you're interested in this position, Director Martin, but there's also, I was told that there are also other committee positions, legislative committee, other committees within Region 10 that are going to come up for discussion.
Director Martin probably just had a discussion on that.
We just had a discussion on that. That'll come up next month or two.
Oh, okay.
And Mr. Lamb will be getting all that information from Aqua, and anyone who wishes to go on one of those committees can certainly, I have to read you the two that I'd like to stay on, but there are other ones that are available.
Separate process.
Yeah, I'm not interested in the legislative
Right.
committee, and so when it does come up.
Okay, I'll let you know.
Let me know.
Absolutely. Like I said, I think it is in June. June?
Yeah, they said they're gonna get them out to you next month.
Yeah, I think, so it should be in June. Okay. So this is just if any, Diane?
Sorry, just to
Sorry, did I miss something?
The way I understand it, they're actually looking for board members.
Yes.
For the Region 10 board, not just the chair and vice chair.
Yeah, that's what my question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said,
Oh, it's time to
So
redo
if-
that.
if-
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
if you're
misspoke.
wanting to
Yeah.
remain, then you will need to resubmit, so there needs to be.
So then I would like
there
to
needs-
resubmit.
Yes, there needs to be action here. If
Ah.
you want to.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you. I was in a conversation this morning, and I didn't completely understand it, but that makes sense after reading what I read. Yes, so I would like to continue being on that board, if this board would so like to keep me there.
Does that require or suggest a nomination?
Yeah, you guys want a motion and a second, support the nomination?
I would nominate Director Martin to continue as his
I'll second that.
position.
Okay.
Thank you.
So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great,
None opposed, passes unanimously.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Diane.
Yeah, thank you, Diane, I'm sorry I missed that. Uh, 210.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was so fascinated reading this. Item 2.10, the San Diego North Economic Development Council, potential water summit, and Director Sinella, we'd like to hand this over to you.
Sure, thank you. As the board probably remembers, we had a few months ago, had approved joining the San Diego North EDC at a level of $10,000, of which 5 of that was to be used to either sponsor events or host an event. And at the time, kind of an overall consensus, if I recall correctly, was that the board would like to do more of like a water-themed event. So myself, along with one of the other board members at the NEDC, sorry, Kim Thorner, who's been involved with the organization for quite a while, kind of took the reins on this. And so the details are still coming together, but right now we're looking at July 16th as an event date. And we had an initial agreement with Cal State San Marcos to host it there. However, they had to pull out due to another event that they have on that day. So right now we're going to have it at the Vista Community Center. I think it's their City Hall or Civic Center area, which I understand is a nice venue. I've never been to it,
Yeah,
but
gorgeous building.
so that's a great venue, and we've actually, let me pull up.
It's page 173 was the current itinerary, unless it's changed.
173.
Yeah, at the very bottom where your speakers.
Yep, there you go. So you can see the speakers that we have, the ones that are confirmed, the ones that have been invited, and even since this has come out last, I spoke to Chris at Stone Brewery at the Boys and Girls Club event, and he's excited to talk about some of their recycling efforts that are taking place, and some of the things that they're doing to be proactive in the craft brew industry. I know that somebody from the BIA or somebody from the development community will be on one of the panels as well to speak about how they're addressing some of these drought conditions. And the overall theme on this, and we're really fortunate because Kim Thorner is very knowledgeable, as you guys know, in all things water San Diego, and she's a strong voice on this particular board, and to have her as kind of my cohort as we go through this to put this together, it's been really helpful, and she's got a lot of resources, and really has really helped with this. But anyways, the long story short here is that these title sponsorships that you see, these numbers are actually changing too as this kind of evolves. And if the board agrees, because it all comes down to money, of the $5,000 that we've already approved to spend, Olivia Hain and Kim is in agreement or is agreeable to kind of be co-title sponsors with Vallecitos, if you guys are agreeable to that, to where we can share this cost. And again, it may change, but what I would like to ask for you guys tonight is kind of your blessing, if you will, to be able to, at least when I'm in these board meetings, to have some, be able to make some commitments. Because now we're getting to the point where July is right around the corner, and I kind of got the sense from everybody here that you wanted to do a water summit or a water symposium. We are putting one together, the details are still coming together, but I'd like to leave here tonight with at least kind of a budget where I could work with 3,500 is what I was thinking, within that $5,000 range. So when I'm there and we're trying to determine what we can, because you can't really finalize your plans until you know what your budget is, right? So, and I don't want, and I'm in an awkward position because I'm on the board, and I kind of got the sense from you, but I have to, whatever I bring up there, I have to come back here, and I always tell them, hey, this is pending approval, it may not happen, but I'd like to be able to be, now that we're only 2 months away from this, to be able to go in there and say, okay, I have up to 3,500, we want to share the title sponsorship with Olivia Hain. We're on board. Other districts have already committed. Rincon's coming on board. Rainbow's coming on board. Again, Kim seems to believe in our discussions and our meetings, and she has a better pulse of all the water industry in San Diego than I do, that she couldn't imagine any water district not wanting to be involved with this outreach opportunity, and she seems to think that every single one of them will come on board as we get closer and closer. So it's very exciting times. It's going to be a great symposium, but I would ask that I can get some definitive, okay to be able to spend up to a certain amount of money so we can be the title sponsor and start planning accordingly and getting this event going. So.
Director Martin.
Couple of questions. Well, one statement is, I think that another person you want to contact, someone in our district, is Greg Hunter. Hunter Industries has saved last year 10 million gallons, and they're looking at saving more than that this year through better manufacturing techniques. I did a tour of their plant last week, and Greg was kind enough to show me around, and it was just amazing how they're able to save water, and that's what his whole system is about, trying to save water. And it's just, if we ever get the chance, we should go there. But that's one. Number two, and myself being a fundraiser now, I guess my question would be, what is the budget for this event going to be? The venue is in a city, so it's relatively inexpensive, and is it going to be coffee? Is the main thrust of this to get education, or is the main thrust of this a fundraiser for the organization? That's important to kind of know, what are we spending the money on? Is it to get education to the people that get there, or is it for the food, is it for the party? And I don't know those answers. Yeah. I don't know how much Snetic plans on making on this, or is it just a symposium, and it's there for one reason, and therefore you get more bang for your buck? I guess that's my question.
To answer a couple questions there, we have there's some updated information that's not on here. We have reached out to Hunter Industries. I don't know if they're confirmed yet, but we are talking to them. You'll see here where it says biotech and life sciences. We've talked to representatives at Life Sciences, which they have a different name now because they were recently acquired. But also we have confirmation from a person who works at Gilead in Oceanside. So they're gonna be representative. So this is gonna still continue to evolve. To get to your second part of your question, we don't have an exact budget because it's a lot of the folks that are participating in this are agencies that have to go back and get approvals.
Sure.
I will tell you that the primary purpose of this is education and outreach. We are not charging people to attend. It's free to attend this event. So as you can, right there, if there's going to be any, so to speak, profit, it's going to be minimal. Sure. We will be serving some sort of breakfast in the morning. I don't know if it's going to be coffee and a continental, or if it's going to be buffet style, scrambled eggs. I don't know. There will be breakfast. So yeah, will the EDC retain anything after this? Because they're going to be selling exhibitor booths as well. I'm sure that this is going to be a source of revenue for them to a certain extent, but I gotta imagine that's going to be fairly minimal, considering that we're expecting 250 to 400 people that are going to be attending for free, is what we think we're going to get.
Great.
And so that's quite a bit of people to feed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Hernandez.
And is this 3,500 that you're requesting part of the 5,000 that we're already planning to do?
It's not only part of the 5,000 that we're planning to do, it's $5,000 that we've already approved that we're going to spend.
Yeah.
So our choice is, do we spend it on a water event, or do we want to wait and spend it on the healthcare summit? So that's your choice. Because you've already authorized the money to be spent. It's just a matter now of how we want to spend it. And there's only so many different opportunities through the course of the remainder of the year to spend it. I know they do have a healthcare summit coming up after the water summit. I just think that the water summit makes more sense for us.
Yeah.
Did you have a comment?
No, I'll make a motion though that we allocate up to $3,500 for Director Sinel's report.
Second.
Okay,
Second.
We have a motion and 2 seconds that we authorize up to $3,500. Happy to see that. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no.
Perfect.
Passes unanimously. Before I move on, I would like to say it does sound, it's going to be very exciting, my job. All right, we are done with the action items. At this point, we will go to the general manager's report.
If you guys haven't heard, there's a drought.
Thank you, moving on.
Moving on. You've got before you, after we did the workshop 2 weeks ago, there were a number of items that the board had different questions on outreach and IT and all the different things. So you have a hard copy before you, plus we emailed it to your home. So this will be incorporated into the budget. So this will be part of the discussion next week at the next workshop. So just the information ahead of time for you. There's a little explanation of what each slide is and what the explanation was. So that's just the information requested by the board. So that'll be rolled into the budget discussion next week.
Could I ask a question as long as we're there?
Sure.
Could Tom give us an answer on, to bring it down to 3%, how much do we have to cut? That's all. Add that to it.
That's in there. There's a
I didn't
couple
see
of.
that.
Oh, yeah, there's a couple of graphs in there show what it is and the cost and everything else.
By, not by percentage, but by absolute dollars.
If you go to this one here, Director Martin,
I'm looking, yeah.
yeah, you'll see a yellow areas that are highlighted.
That's it, I'm getting old, it's getting hard to read these things, are you kidding?
There's a lot of work, and like I said, it's not just an issue of bringing it down to 3%, it's the impact on reserves, how we get there, subsequent years. So if you can look at.
Well, how you get there is your job, the way I look at it. You're
Well,
the
yeah,
GM.
but again, there's a lot of ramifications if you just make a decision, go to a certain percentage, so. Every one of those questions the board asked about how it does, they all tie together when you make a decision like that. The other thing I just got an email, Director Hernandez had brought this up years ago, when we first started, 6 months ago, we were looking at the outreach. Palomar College, through the Garrett program that we support, that the board supports, the
Gear Up?
original.
Gear Up.
Gear Up.
Okay.
We had the inaugural kickoff of the Gear Up program for Palomar College here, you may recall that. They do have an Emmy award-winning video group. What do you call them, multimedia? They're actually going to be producing a documentary through Palomar College about the drought that's going on down here. So they've reached out to us for us to become part of that process with them. So this should be a good outreach for us, that we actually have some pretty good input locally.
Great.
So we'll all go on there and again, vent our frustrations on what we're having to do, even though we don't want to. But anyway, that was good news. Beyond that, I haven't done anything except drop for the last 6 weeks, so I don't have anything else to report. Unless you have any questions.
Do you have any questions for GM?
And then I have some closed session items that we'll talk about.
Yep.
Jeff?
You talk about Emmy Award winning, I had the pleasure of seeing a couple of those interviews of Mr. Lamb on the TV the other day, and
Be nice.
I think it's safe to say that I don't think
I don't have a
MGM
career.
I don't think we're gonna lose him to MGM anytime soon. But, it was a nice job. It was great to see you were in front of the camera, but I don't think you're going too far.
Never been my fault.
A case came down last month that actually kind of surprised me, and that's pretty hard at this point, because you feel like you've seen everything. And this is one that's near and dear to me, although it's not that big a deal. But the LA Board of Supervisors versus the ACLU, it was the court held that the California Public Records Act expressly exempts attorney-client communications. We all understand that. Okay, makes sense. From the reach of the Public Records Act, from disclosure. And the issue there was whether or not it included attorney invoices. And this court, appellate court, said that actually attorney invoices, because there's all kinds of information in there when you go through them, it consists, as far as the court was concerned, of attorney-client communications. And therefore, now I'm not saying the price or the amount's non-disclosure, that you can disclose the amount, but you don't get the actual invoices. So I thought it was kind of an interesting case. It was a little bit different than what we're used to. The other thing is, I'm going to hand this out, spread this around for you, and it's just, this is just a memo on, I'd like you to read at your leisure, 3.5, 4 pages, and it summarizes the recent Capistrano case, which is a big deal, and I want you guys to sort of educate yourself on that case, get understanding of these things, but the principles, but the concepts that came down, and we'll be talking about that as we go along. And I think it would be helpful. There might be some extra ones, so just pass them on down. But that's all I have. When you get a chance, if you have trouble sleeping, you can read that memo. It'll help you.
Thank you.
Okay.
San Diego County Water Authority, basically, I think I've already pretty much said what needed to be said. It was a very long discussion about the drought and the mandate and a lot of unhappiness, but in the end, they feel, much like Dennis does, we have to do it and we will do it. And San Diego, once again, was very proactive and learned our lesson long ago, and unfortunately the state didn't. And so we're all in the same boat. Encino Wastewater Authority, Mr. Hernandez.
Yes, we had a meeting, excuse me, this morning, and we had a couple of issues that finalized relative to awarding contracts to look at our outfall. Interestingly enough, I was just surprised. We advertised for a group to go in to the manhole and go down 700 feet down the pipe to check it, to make sure that it was, the integrity was there per the state requirement. When it gets out to the ocean outfall, they do that with either submarines or whatever, but 700 feet, that's 7 football fields that some guy is crawling down this pipe. Well, obviously they cut off the flow and all that, but I was pretty well shocked at that. The bigger issue, which had to do part with our budget, was the staffing of Encina. And it came down to, you can't replace 6 people with 6 people. Because of training, because of holidays, because of vacation time, you need more than 6 people to do 6 people's work. And one of our board members, one of our committee members, couldn't contemplate that we couldn't find somebody else to just fill in that slot in the middle of the night. And so we're going to have to do a little more work at our board meeting to do a cartoon, is what one of the other board members suggested we provide, so that we can understand. The long and the short of it is, over the next 2 years, we want to hire 4 operators to bring them in slowly at a cost which was a bit surprising, with everything included, about $700,000. I'm in the wrong business for damn sure.
Well, we'll let you crawl down the pipe if you want.
For $700,000, I'll be the first guy down that pipe, I can tell you.
New guy do that.
It was, but that's the cost of tea in China, so, and we haven't had an increase in staff since 2008. So it truly was something that is necessary. It just, people need to understand it a little better. So that's my report.
Thank you. Dr. Oliver.
So I attended the EWA Policy and Finance Committee meeting on May 12th, and I'm kind of tagging on to Director Hernandez. We had a very lively discussion on the second look at the operating budget, which most of the discussion involved labor issues. And one of the big ones that came up was the engineering services that are provided. And, you know, right now it's by a consultant that's kind of an extension of staff.
Right, RMC.
And a couple of the member agencies are questioning whether that's the right thing to do and whether the Joint Powers Authority needs to have an actual staff member fulfilling that role. So it kind of held up a vote on moving the budget forward for a good hour or so. But, you know, I pointed out that, you know, the cost is pretty much the same whether you do it, you know, if the all-in cost for an on-staff person with overhead and all that is about what you're paying a consultant. And I don't think it's prudent at this point to, you know, to hire somebody.
Well, they're not a growth agency where they're building and doing enough stuff. They're in the maintenance replacement.
So I don't know what the impetus is for the two
I
of
don't
these
either.
members to be pushing this, but I suggested we go ahead and move the budget forward and tackle this issue later on.
Well, that would be almost like this ordinance that we had earlier, if you would have wanted to take those items out, but don't delay the actual implementation of the need of the ordinance.
Right.
So what would probably be the recommendation in Encina would be to keep moving forward the budget, because the way Encina works is they do the budget, we all get approval, and then they come back and they do a final resolution at the end authorizing the budget and the expenditure after everybody's talked about it. So at least everybody knows what the budget is, and then you can deal with the appropriation for the employees after another month that you've had time to ferret it out.
So that was one of the big items. The other one was recommendation for approval of an EWA San Alejo Joint Powers Authority employee leasing agreement, and that's to share human resources between the two entities, and it sounds like a really good idea. So we were all very supportive of that and moved it onto the board.
Excellent. Yes, Director Hernandez.
It was interesting, that particular issue, I was anticipating it was going to come up in the Capital Committee, but it didn't come up at all, and I did understand there was a meeting with the two agencies prior to, so maybe it's been resolved. I don't know if there was any insight that you...
I only had a very quick chance to speak with the general manager before I got in here.
Uh-huh.
They did have a meeting yesterday with those two agencies, because Director Elthorpe said it's kind of like the item that got put on the table at face value doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like there's something else behind it. That's the thing they want to get it on the table to talk about other things. My understanding was they had a good meeting yesterday afternoon. Like I said, I didn't have enough time to really get into it with Kevin, but he feels it's sort of like what Director Elthorpe says. Okay, we have staff engineers because we're ongoing, we're growing, we're building. They're in the maintenance phase. There's not another expansion for 20 years, so why have an on-staff engineer? When you have an extension of staff, you use them when you need them. So I think that got kind of worked out, but it's along the lines of what you're talking about too. Is like, well, yeah, we need an operator, but we don't need an operator from 7 to 3. We need an operator 24 hours a day. So it's not one operator.
Yeah.
That's what they're grappling with, is the labor. So I think it'll be somehow tied in to the two.
Okay.
Interesting, budgets are always hard. Okay, directors' reports on travel, conferences, seminars? Director Martin.
I have one, rather lengthy one, but I'll give everyone else the opportunity to talk about it as well. The Aqua Conference was week before last, and I did attend the JPIA for our insurance, and there was some good news in the JPIA. They have not increased any of their bills to any of their people, which, from what I'm reading so far, isn't true with all insurances, but at least with theirs. We didn't get a refund check from them this year because, I think Tom said it was because of Lake San Marcos, but I'm not sure. They're very proud of giving out those refund checks when you don't use them. But they're doing a fantastic job, and everyone's real happy that Aqua took that over, and they have an overabundance of money, so they're doing what I thought we were doing with giving some of it, putting it back in slowly, so that the rates stay pretty stable. That they're taking away from and putting in slow, so I thought we were doing with water. So it's a good report. They're doing a great job. I'm always impressed with their staff. They're always right on it, as ours is. As ours is. They do a really good job, so it was impressive. Glad I was there. And I'll save the rest of the AQUA for other members to talk about. And I did represent Region 10. The energy meeting kept bouncing around because our guy from Valley Center? Gary? Yeah, he was trying to talk to the governor about why.
He was trying to do the hearing at the same time?
Yeah. So it bounced around, but we actually had it Friday afternoon, which is a perfect time, Friday late morning, which is a perfect time for everybody anyhow. 'Cause most people are leaving after the Hans Doe, the former Vista person's breakfast. So I got to go to that instead, which was interesting. It was always interesting. It's interesting to see how there were still 40 or 50 people in there, which surprised me. But they had a couple of meetings that day afterwards. So they had quite a good turnout. So it was excellent conference. Thank you.
Great. Director Yellowcraft.
Yeah, I attended Aqua as well from Monday afternoon through Friday morning, and attended a whole lot of sessions. I'll just highlight a couple things. I was able to attend some of the JPIA programs late Monday afternoon and then Tuesday morning. That's really the first time I've ever had a chance to do that. So I agree. I think JPIA is a very well-run organization. Very impressed with it. And then kind of the other takeaway I got throughout all the drought discussion and all that, and how we're going to implement Prop 1 and the surface storage part of that took up a lot of the discussion. And it's, you know, it kind of goes toward some of Director Sinella's frustrations. You know, I think getting these things passed is probably the easiest part. It's getting them implemented, and it takes some of these big ones. It's taken over a decade to distribute that money, so that's pretty discouraging.
Prop 50 and Prop 84 were approved 10 years ago.
They've still got a couple $100 million in, I think, in '84. So, but anyway, the other session I attended Thursday afternoon was a regional forum on the state of Delta science, what we know and what we still need to learn. And I'm just going to say I've been in the water industry for going on 30 years out of my 35-year career. And I don't think we know any more now than we did 30 years ago. I'm convinced of that based on what these scientists say. They can tell you what they don't know, and they spent a long time describing what they don't know. And that's pretty discouraging too, because we're spending billions on a problem, you know, that they haven't defined yet. I'll leave it at that.
Excellent.
I have something to add. A big thank you to our staff for Diane and Craig working together. I got up there Sunday night after I had forgotten some things and came back, and I had gotten up there Sunday night and hadn't taken any of my medications with me. So I had the gal that works with me, got them. She got them to Diane got them to Craig, and Monday afternoon I had them. So my hat's off. Thank you very, very much. You made it a stress-free week.
That was the main reason I attended some of the JPI stuff.
Soon as I'm here, have a pill.
I didn't just throw them at them and take off.
Stay on your meds,
Open your mouth, please.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Personnel.
Yeah, I attended a couple things. Last Thursday I was at the SD and EDC monthly meeting, and we had two presentations. One was on an update on the Palomar Airport Master Plan, and they're really trying to enhance that airport so it can be even more of an economic driver and asset for our region here, and it was interesting. And the second presentation was from Mr. Larson from the Farm Bureau, and that was incredible information that I hadn't heard, and so it was a great opportunity for both myself and there was probably 100+ people who attended this event. And I will say, because I know that there was some concerns that were articulated, or some discussion at least, about joining this group. And since President Evans has appointed me to this to be part of this since January, I can't think of a meeting that we haven't had so far that water wasn't either one of the main discussion points or didn't come up at the very least. And so I think that the drought and everything that we're dealing with is weighing very heavy on our business community, and they want to hear about it, and I'm glad that we're participating in this group. And that's why I think one of their speakers, almost every single meeting, is talking about water. And then secondly, I went to Sacramento as part of the CASA conference up there, and didn't really know what to expect with this when I was looking at the agenda to go up there. And what I found out when I got there and I participated in this 2 days, it was kind of a quick trip, it was just 2 days. Very valuable experience, and I really liked the format that CASA had, where we were in conference rooms at times listening to various different subject matter experts, but then we actually divvied up times and broke into groups as a CASA organization and went to the Capitol and pounded on doors to our legislators and expressed our concerns and talked about the issues, our local issues that we have, and tried to influence some of the decision-making up there. So I was a little bit leery about going when I first set it up. I didn't know what to expect. I don't think I'll miss one ever again now. I think it's that important. And I encourage you guys all, if you haven't been, to participate in that. I will say another thing I get out of these conferences is the networking piece of it. I had the opportunity to sit next to Kevin Hardy on the flight home. I actually had dinner with him one night while I was out there as well. But and so I had an hour and a half, 2 hours with him just to sit there, and he's a wealth of information. And I know all of you know him, and that's just an invaluable experience to sit down and have a captive audience where you can kind of discuss what's going on there with wastewater. So I really enjoyed that. And then also one last thing on that trip is our local state senator, Joel Anderson, had learned that I was up there. He invited me down to the Senate floor where he actually got up and recognized both me and Vallecitos for our efforts to the entire Senate. And I really appreciate him for doing that and taking the leadership. And Vallecitos got a little bit of airplay up there in Sacramento. So.
And it has been a busy month. I too was at Aqua, and the two things I took away were, one, the solar possibility, and we have our two major water tanks out in Twin Oaks Valley, and I'm sure that we've talked about this, but I wonder if we could get an update as to what the possibilities are about putting solar panels out there, based on the breakout section with the 4+ acres we have. We could develop nearly 5 megawatts of power. There's a window that's closing for incentives, and the purchase agreement is a possibility. A lot of possibilities, but it was very informative to the point where I might even look at it for my own home, which before I thought was kind of nonsensical, but something we should look at. The other thing was stormwater, and I've kind of touched on this in the past, trying to figure a way, and let me now reframe it in a different position. I'm in a project with a client that's going to spend $50,000 on this bioretention.
Swell.
I was going to say something that started with a B. But I would have, that client would be delighted to give half of that money to this district and let you deal with stormwater. Absolutely, and I can't believe there's any builder, developer in this city, county that wouldn't do the very same. I don't know, and I did, at the seminar, they did say it's costly, and it takes a little more work than just putting a big bucket at the end before it gets to Lake San Marcos. But in our master plan, I know we didn't specifically task the engineers that are looking at what we want to do, but is that something that we could at least gather some direction?
Yeah, it's part of it, and again, I've still got to come back to you with the final scope, so you guys are clear on what you want us to look at. It's kind of, with everything the last 6 weeks,
Yeah.
it hasn't been a priority. I sat with Director Hernandez in that presentation, and again, they say it's a great idea. Oh, we'd love you to do it. We'll start working on a framework next year on how to do it. But I think it was September of this year, they will be issuing their preliminary draft guidelines on how you can do it. The thing they weren't clear on, and Jeff can probably attest to this, EPA was reaching out to control all streams and side streams and beds. And so nobody could do anything until they knew what EPA was going to do, and that got struck down. They didn't approve the bill. So EPA is going to go back and rewrite it. But even I forget the lady's name from the state board that was talking about it, the big thing that they don't know how to handle is the water going into the creeks. Once it hits the creeks, it's waters of the state, and it's now part of the blue stream. So how do we go in there and get the water out without environmentally damaging it? That's the reg they're hoping to come out with in September that we can start looking at.
Okay.
But yeah, it's coming, just a matter of when. Yeah.
I have learned in my brief 4 years and here we are, 4 months, the water industry is the slowest grind business I've ever encountered, but it grinds fine, so. The other thing relative to San Diego, North San Diego EDC, relative to the airport, one of the things that they were asking for is support letters for one of their 3 options. And while I was going through this, perhaps with the new alignment or expansion that they're certainly going to have to do something, there may be another opportunity for us and as a district to utilize Palomar more often than San Diego, which could be, I don't know if it's going to be a financial benefit, but it certainly would be a distance benefit. So I think there is a letter that they have requested, is that what it was, Mike? That for us to send as a support, I'm a little foggy on the details of
Yeah,
that.
they're still not, what I took from it is that they're still considering the 3 options.
Right.
And I don't know, I think once they unite behind one of them, I think that
Okay,
that
so
may be an opportunity.
we'll have time for that.
Yeah, let me know, because you have a policy that allows us need to write a letter in support or against if it's within these areas, and I just report back to you, because
Okay.
timing obviously is
Very good.
horrible to do that. So if you do have something like that, get it to me ahead of time so I can get it on the agenda.
Perfect. And then the beginning of the Aqua Conference was our groundwater, and of course, we are the redheaded stepchild of the whole groundwater discussion until we find our water. Once we find our water, then we're going to move right up there with the big guys. But well, the thing that came out as a possible benefit, the adjudication of water areas. There is a secondary system that may not be as complicated to gain the same ability that they're talking about. So I wasn't real knowledgeable about how that works, but it piqued my interest because I do remember hearing the manager say that adjudication is troublesome.
Oh, yeah.
And long-term.
Were they talking about not having to form a regional authority for multiple, and you could just do it as an individual? Is that what they're talking about?
Maybe, I'm not quite clear on that. I was a little bit mystified. It sounded like a legal maneuver, quite frankly, as opposed to a regional, but I will keep you abreast of that.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to other business, we have the quarterly board expenses that's in your packet, and we have a CASA annual conference coming up in San Diego. That's, I got the dates, it's in front of me, but you mean to let Diane know? In August, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's let Diane know if you'll be going to that.
19th and 21st.
19th to the 21st of August. Okay, any director's comments or future agenda items? Director Hernandez.
I'm an old guy, and, you know, I would like somebody to send me the minutes of the meeting that the public speaker said that I've requested on smart meters.
Oh, no.
Because
No.
No, he was.
Okay, let me be succinct. Last year, or a couple of months ago, you asked for what does it cost if we are to do the AMI? Is that-
Yeah.
The AMI. We came back, we reported it was gonna be $6 to $7 million, and you said thank you.
Oh, good.
That was-
I may have been on drugs then.
That was the-
It was a great presentation.
That was-
Apparently it was.
that was the report, Director
Impressed the
Hernandez.
heck out of our public speaker.
That was
At
it.
the end of it, I noticed, well, at the presentation. but-
Okay, well,
Yeah, that's all your report was.
I was a little bit worried about
Would you
galloping.
like us to put a smart meter report on the agenda that you?
No,
would
no,
present?
I've had it already. I didn't really hear it.
That's all it was.
Yeah,
You asked and we told you.
galloping senility, I was afraid was taking place. But then the other comment I'd like to know, two things. One, I see we do have a security guard recently at our facility. I'm hoping that that is only because of the remodel that's taking place, and once the remodel is done, he will be gone.
He'll be gone as of Friday. That is correct.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Secondly, again, I'm hoping that it's the remodel that's causing this. I've called in 3 times at least, and there has apparently been a long line, whether it's drought or whether it's tattling on your neighbor, whatever, the automation comes in. And what I believe would be helpful for the board is they do give you an option that if you know the extension, you can hit pound and then go to the extension. Well, the only extension I know is our engineer,
Yeah.
so I
You want a
bothered
list of the
him quite a
employees?
bit. But if we could get a list
Sure.
of those extensions, I might be able to bypass when
You
that
bet.
happens. And again, I don't know if this is an ongoing volume that we're experiencing, possibly because of the remodel and of course certainly the drought. But if the volume continues like this, I would like to see if there is another solution to get a real person at the end of that phone.
Yeah, I could show you statistics. We actually just finished tracking all for the first month to complete. Out of, I want to say, 4,300 calls that came in, 95% were answered directly. There was a very small percentage, 300 some, that went directly to extensions, and I think either lost or hangups were about 120 something out of over 4,000. But you are correct. It's also because of the improvements. We don't want anybody out front. The reason there's a guard is because we had to hand the cash out front.
Sure.
We didn't want anybody out there by themselves. So when they're done over here, you'll have 3 people at the front counter doing customer service and answering phones,
Okay.
versus the one person that's been trying to do it all by herself.
All right then.
Right, Director Sanilla.
Yeah, and maybe this might be better answered in closed session later, but with the 1-year anniversary of the fires, it kind of jogged my memory. We did have some litigation stuff that was
We'll
coming up.
We'll do it in closed
Okay.
session.
I would like an update on that.
Yes, Director Martin.
2 questions. Number 1, Katz and Associates, I know they're compiling a lot of information to give us a wondrous presentation. Do we have that down as to when that's gonna happen?
You'll get an update at the first board meeting, what are we in, May? In June. The communication plan is done, to where all the different things that they're done, and they're working all the presentations, PowerPoints and all that, which probably be the latter part of June, early July.
Okay, this is just an update.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other question is, and I have to really put it up to the engineering department over there. I really like that you're doing security over by the cashiers, but engineering, you flip the door open and get back there with a gun. Are you doing anything with the other wing?
Not much we
as
can
far
do.
as security?
Not much we can do.
Security's for cash.
Well, you did an awful lot.
This
on
is
side.
security for cash.
Well, it's the security for personnel as well, because you don't have a person at the front door anymore.
No, I understand that. We looked at this when we went through our security upgrades and we looked through vulnerability assessment. This is easy to lock off. We have a ton of people that come in and out of engineering every day. So to put glass panels up to do what we're doing, practicality of over here, this is more of the fact that you have customers paying money, customers handling money, everything else. That was the basis behind the vulnerability assessment to protect this area. We've looked over there, aside from putting up bulletproof glass when you're trying to deal with the customer, looking at plans, everything else, we haven't found anything practical to let it work. We even brought the sheriff's department in and talked to them about it. And the bottom line is, we had an event last week where somebody was a little off kilter. I think they had too much to drink. And, they paid the bill, they cussed a little bit, and we escorted them out.
Jim said he mails his stuff.
No, I come in late personally. That's
Well,
why.
but when he's late, he's mad, he hasn't.
Yeah,
paid.
Okay.
But no, we have looked at it and we continue to look at it, but even when we brought through the vulnerability assessment, there's nothing practical that we can do in the engineering department and still provide service. It's like walking in City Hall. You walk in City Hall and you walk up to the counter.
Exactly.
And it's,
Well, they have a cashier in there, they don't
No,
have
I-
bulletproof
I-
glasses.
we looked at it, but I don't think you'll go to a
Just
public
think of the
agency.
engineers. He's retired, so.
He's retiring, he doesn't care.
The other guys are young,
Yeah.
they're disposable.
They're disposable.
They're expensive.
Well, but we have looked at it, but the practicality of having public coming in and working with them, putting plans out, fundamentally, it's just a,
That's fine, that's fine.
Any other comments? Okay, we will be moving into closed session.
yes, thank you.
Oh, do we do? Could I please have a motion and a second so we can move into closed
It'd be
session?
real fast.
Move to go closed session.
I guess they can.
Thank you. And those in favor say aye?
Aye.